Happy Monday, degenerates. Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. It's your boy Clint behind the scenes, behind the camera. We're ready to go. UFC Vegas 78. I'm wearing the blues, and I know some of you may be like, Clint, why are you wearing the baby blues? We posted a 2-unit loss at UFC Nashville. Tough night at the office. You know, we've been used to winning. We're just cashing checks left and right. And we had an L on the weekend. Why are you wearing the baby blues? Folks, if you have that question, if you're asking me that, it's because you don't follow me on social media. We destroyed the PFL. We hit a 3-legger parlay. We called the big upset in the main event. Not only did we call that upset, we bet the plus 550 knockout prop plus 6.9 units. 69. Nice. So we are up 4 units for the weekend. That's right. It's a winning weekend, and we get to rock the blues and the money chain. However, there's an order of business that needs to be taken care of. No matter how much money I won this weekend, no matter how much I can pound my chest and gloat that I'm still just on this incredible heater, I'm the hottest guy on YouTube in MMA right now, I did take an L. I took a giant L to my guy, Ethan Hershey, who's been in the chat every single week. We were tied 1-1. We had a tiebreaker, and somehow he picked Luke Klein over Ignacio Bahamondes. Ethan, I don't know how you did it. I know one other poor soul who picked Luke Klein to topple Ignacio Bahamondes. Never saw it coming. Never expected that to be the case, but congratulations to you, my friend. These are 2 shots worth. I'm going to go ahead and knock this bad boy out, and I have tipped my hat to you, my friend. You win. You win 2-1. Woo! All right, and now with that out, out of the way, I will introduce this week's guest. Someone I'm very excited to see on the show again. It's been way too long. You may know him being part of the Pub Sports Radio family right here. None other than DFS by the numbers, our guy Brady. What's going on, my guy? How you doing today? You're muted. Classic. Hard intro.
Oh, that sucks. What's I'm looking for? It's been a long day, man. I had to do Contender Series content. I had to do UFC Vegas 78 content, but I'm looking forward to it. I got a coffee, so I'm ready to go for the show. And you got your fireball, so I think we're both ready.
We're both perked up. You got the coffee. I got the fireball. We are all set. And yeah, man, for those of you who do not know, Dana White's Contender Series is back, and we have more than enough people in the community covering it. I mean, my guy Brady's got a video coming out right after this show. I believe Gordo and our guy Liam Picks Fights are doing a show. Narco is doing a weekly show. John Kelly is doing a weekly show. So there's a lot of options out there if you guys need your Dana White's Contender Series video breakdowns. I go balls deep on these UFC breakdowns, Brady, and unfortunately don't have the time to do a full-on video breakdown for Dana White's Contender Series. But if I do find action that I like, I will be posting them. So again, guys, that'll be on social media if I like anything for Dana White's Contender Series. But hey, we've already got 80 live viewers, Brady. Everybody do us a favor. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Let's shout some people out here. We got our guy Dream, Mike Harvey in the chat, looking to rack up 100+ units this year himself. Let's go, Mike. You love to see it. We've got What's Super Jan. We've got my guy Nigel Lee in the house. And we've got an early dono, Porco Rosso, with the $2 sticker. Porco, thank you again so much for the donations, my friend. Always coming in here with your generosity, helping us keep the lights on at Pub Sports Radio. Thank you so much. And of course, Mushroom in the house. Grateful Dude, VGO. We've got You three guys are going back and forth a ton there, huh? Air Dog 916 Dave Dixon Cider. What's going on? And he's asking about the OnlyFans fade. We'll talk about that. We will talk about that, won't we? All right, everybody. Let's get on into it. Giordano Hernandez, what's up, buddy? Thank you for hanging out here. Let's freaking go. Let's go. All right. So we're talking about UFC Vegas 78. But first, Brady, how'd you do at UFC Nashville?
It was one of those weeks where I felt like the process was there, the reads were there, but the results weren't falling. I had Jake Hadley inside the distance, and on any other night, that hits, and you cash another submission special at what was it, like 55-1?
This one was 51.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, so that, like any other night, I think that probably hits. And then I had Sandhagen inside the distance, which it wasn't looking like it was going to hit at all. And then all of a sudden, to add insult to injury, Sandhagen locks in like a tight darce in the fifth round, and Rob Font for some reason just doesn't. He didn't want to be there to begin with, but he decided not to tap. So if either Rob Font taps or Hadley taps, it's a really good night. But ended up being a small losing night. But yeah, I thought the reads were there. And by the way, that main event just was weird. I did not expect Corey Sandhagen to wrestle and get 20 minutes of control time, and Rob Font, one of the highest volume strikers in the bantamweight division, to land 9 significant strikes in 25 minutes. I mean, that was a very weird outcome to me. So kind of a weird card overall. We talked about the Bahamondes fight. I was not expecting Ludovic Klein to 30-27 Bahamondes out of nowhere. So I'm looking forward to this new week. I think it's a solid card in Vegas 78. I think they did a really good job with these matchups in terms of like making really fun fights.
I agree with you. I completely agree with you. We say it almost every week, man. These dumpster diver cards, right? These ones where it looks nasty, it's gross, there's not a lot of name value. They usually end up being fun. And I think that's what we've got this week. But I am right there with you about last week, Brady. Thank you, first off, for mentioning. Folks, Cody fucking Durden. Like, I don't know. That guy has it out for me. I cannot get him right. Every single time I pick against Cody Durden, it's like he's doing it just to spite me specifically.
Son of a kid! Hey, Marshall! You ever get tired of being wrong? I do! I really do, but I'm tired!
Man, I swear. So we hit a 58-1 sub special last week, and Brady, I'm sitting there going, I'm not missing. Like, I knew in my soul that I was cashing another 50-1 sub prop this week. I loved every single leg on that parlay. And in fact, after Jake Hadley lost round 1, I jumped in on the live line. I was like, I know Cody Durden's going to fade. I know Jake's going to catch him in a sub in round 2. It's coming. It's inevitable. And he does exactly that. He goes belly down armbar, which, folks, if you've been watching MMA for maybe the last 2 weeks, belly down arm bars break your freaking arms. Like, it's fully hyperextended. There's no wiggle room. There's nowhere to go. Women are sometimes like jelly boned flexible enough to survive the belly down arm bar, but men, I ain't having it. Like, your elbow doesn't go that way. It was pure grit and toughness that he somehow managed not to tap in that spot. And like Brady said, literally any other human being on any other night taps and it's over. Cash Jake Hadley inside the distance for 2 units. Cash the money line for another 2 units. Cash the sub special for 51-1 with a little quarter unit sprinkle on it. It's another legendary night for your boy. So massive swing, ended up 2 units down. So I'm right there with you, Brady. Right there with you. The Bahamondes fight, super weird. I think it was just the situation of a young kid got clocked early and the game plan kind of went out the window. He was never able to really find himself once he was wobbled in that first exchange that he had where he got hurt. I got lucky on Carlston Harris. I was in on Carlston Harris and he pulled off that insane comeback late in the fight. I think maybe my sharpest read on the entire card, man, was the under 2.5 Jacoby and Kennedy and Nchukwi. Dude, in my soul, I wanted so badly to bet on Kennedy. I thought Kennedy would be the one getting the win, but I recognized the chin concerns and Dustin Jacoby's power, so the under was the move. Love those spots. So feel pretty good about that one cashing, but it wasn't enough to get me back in it. So gladly I stayed away from the main event. Very happy to do so. And honestly, the word has come out that I guess Corey tore his his tricep. Like, that's probably why Rob didn't tap in the 5th round, don't you think?
Yeah, and that's probably why he wrestled the entire fight. He said he heard it in the 1st round, so.
Bummer, man. Okay, well, you know what? We're both feeling good. We're both feeling sharp. Sometimes good bets don't cash. Sometimes bad bets do, like my Carlston Harris one. So let's brush it off. Let's get into this week. We've got some awesome fights to break down for you, and we've already got 120 live viewers, folks. This is Pub Sports Radio. The show is brought to you by Bet Openly. We'll talk about that more a little bit later, but first fight of the evening is going to be Juliana Miller taking on Luana Santos. And Brady, I'm coming out firing. I've got a bet. I've got a bet ready. Oh, you know what? I need to pump the brakes, Brady. I need to pump the brakes. I'm sorry. I've been building up everything, getting ready to start the show. I'm in auto podcaster mode. We have to give a very special shout out. In the chat, our guy, Uncle Wheezy. Wheezy, I just want you to know we're thinking about you. I just want you to know we love you. Saw the bad news on Twitter, unfortunately. And you're loved, man. You're loved by the community. You're loved by all of us. We're here for you. Bootsy is loved by the community. You know, his input on every single show that he's in, letting us know when the dogs are barking. A lot of us are going to miss him too. So I'm very, very sorry, my friend, for your news today. And I just wanted to let you know that we care about you. And anybody in the chat, do us a favor, show some love to Wheezy. He's here with us tonight. Make sure he feels the love from the community right now. We do have another dono real quick here. Going to shout out our guy Sean D for $1.99. Thank you so much, Clintus Decimus Maximus. And he's saying, "What's up, Brady? Let's go." Thank you so much, Sean D. We really appreciate you here. Absolutely love it. Okay, back on track. Let's try this again. Juliana Miller taking on Luana Santos. UFC newcomer Luana Santos and disappointing tough Ultimate Fighter winner Juliana Miller. Most of you know that I faded the shit out of Miller with my girl Veronica Hardy. Now, I put a tweet out. I was like, running the tape. Man, that feels good. Plus 300 on my girl pre-flop. Plus 300 on my girl live bet. Like, it's so funny because, Brady, people get mad at me for betting numbers and not fighters, right? Just pick the winner, man. Like, that exact spot was Jessica Andrade this past week, right? Like, not a soul believed that she was the right side. Nobody thought she stood a chance. I recognized that the number was wide. We bet her. We cashed on her. We're good. I even live bet her. Exact same strategy I used on Jessica Andrade this past week. Worked out last time. Didn't work out this time, but that's why you're getting plus 3-1. 6 units in my pocket on that event, minus 2 units this week. I think I came out on top, but that's the strategy, right? We're looking for those types of spots, man. Juliana Miller, 3-2 officially, but that is a little misleading because the Ultimate Fighter stint, obviously, those go on as amateur bouts or exhibition bouts. They don't count to her official record, so she's got a bit more experience than that 3-2 record shows. She's long, she's lanky, a little slow on the reload, doesn't appear to enjoy being hit, but she's pretty tough. Like, even though she doesn't react well when she gets cracked, she stayed in that fight against my girl Hardy, even when she was getting beat to a pulp. She's a bit of a size bully. So she struggles in the pocket, but once she gets her hands on you, strong body lock, good underhooks. She's good and solid from wrestling top position. She can scramble pretty well, and she's dangerous from bottom also, Brady. She's definitely a submission threat. She's got those long legs. She looks for arm bars. She looks for triangles. Even back in the Hardy fight, there was a split second where my breath caught because I was like, oh my God, she's got an armbar. Anybody that went back and ran the tape, Miller versus Hardy, she had a deep armbar locked up on my girl Hardy. And a lot of lesser women probably would have tapped in that spot or gotten their arms extended and had to scramble out. At the very least, it would have been a lot hairier. So she's very, very solid when it comes to her submission offense. And she's dangerous even when she's being the nail, which you love to see. I think this is a recency bias spot here, Brady. I think everybody was all in on Killer Miller, and then she got upset by the girl that nobody believed was any good, and now we're just throwing her in the bin. She's right in the trash can, and I look for those spots, and I try to hammer them as much as possible, because as soon as the public sentiment is down on somebody, that's usually when their value is at its highest. You know, Luana Santos, 5-1, UFC debut. She's 23 years old, coming from LFA. Not a bad resume, not a bad place to be coming from. Good solid record, making her UFC debut here, but she's got these big looping punches, and I think straight punches are going to beat her in that spot. Miller, I think, will be able to survive those big winging bombs she throws. She does have a solid right cross that she's got some decent power in, but as much as I want to say she's got some pop in her hands, she's never knocked anybody out. I don't think she has enough power to actually put anybody away. It's got to be like a volume type of situation. She also drops her hands back as she's moving backwards. She's kind of got that tall man's defense or tall woman's defense going on in this case. And she really relies on her grappling. She's an offensive grappler. She looks for the wrestling. She goes to that head and arm throw, Brady. And even on the regional scene, we've seen her get caught in that. She gave up her back. She got body triangle. It was a problem for her. And she's young. She's green. I think she's intelligent. She looks like she's got a bright future. She's got a gorgeous Tapology picture. Of course, the UFC is interested in this girl. But this is a recency bias spot. Brady, this line is backwards. Luana Santos making her UFC debut is -140 over Juliana Miller +115, who's got the higher level experience, who's the bigger fighter. And even though she's coming off of a loss, I think she can size bully her way in this spot. And given the bad positions I've seen Santos grappling, I think Miller might choke her out, man. I took a shot, a 1-unit shot here at +115 on the dog. That's where I'm at. What do you think of this first fight, Brady?
Yeah, we're gonna spend a lot of time on this one. I feel like for right off the bat. I mean, I'm trying. What I'm trying to do this week is I want to start a petition this week, and the petition is to remove the nickname for Juliana Miller. Her nickname as of now is Killer, and I want to get that removed because in my book, you're not a killer if you get 30-27 by Veronica Hardy. But other than that, I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you 110%. I think this line should be flipped. From a market perspective, Clint, Juliana Miller was -350, -375 in her last fight, and now all of a sudden she is an underdog to Luana Santos, who hasn't proven anything, and quite frankly, I'm not that impressed with. Luana Santos, she's going to have the striking advantage, and you could blindfold her as well, and she'll still have the striking advantage just because Juliana Miller has some of the worst striking in the division. On paper, Juliana Miller's striking defense is 26%, which I don't think I've ever seen a number so low. I mean, her striking defense is atrocious. But, like you said, in Santos, her fights, in every single fight, she's going for the head and arm throw, and she's able to have success with that against these lower level fighters. But you saw in her only loss, she would go for the head and arm throw, and her opponent would take her back. And in every round she got her back taken. And then, like the one time I saw her try to defend a takedown, like she was defending a takedown with a head and arm throw. She has no takedown defense. Her takedown defense is a head and arm throw. So if you're going to head and arm throw somebody with as good of jiu-jitsu as Juliana Miller, Miller's probably going to take her back, and she potentially could tap her out. So it's disgusting, but sometimes the disgusting bets are the ones that are the best bets. And Juliana Miller at +125, it doesn't make a ton of sense. Do I want to put money on this fight? Not really. But if I was forced to bet on it, it's absolutely on the dog. I think it's a very winnable matchup for her, and I think people are trying to fade Juliana Miller with Luana Santos, and I don't know if that's the best idea because, quite frankly, I'm just not high in Luana Santos whatsoever. So it could get a little bit greasy, but I think Miller could potentially take the back here, win minutes or win moments.
I'm glad to hear you see it, Brady. I'm glad to hear you see it. And while, a lot of people would want to skirt away from these kinds of spots, I hit the gas and I drive straight on into them, baby. These are my types of dirty, gross spots. Nobody wants them. I'll take them. This is my type of rabid dog here. I've got 1 unit on Juliana Miller at +115. And if this line moves against me, I fully plan on adding. Now, it makes me want to throw up in my mouth just a little bit to have more than 1 unit on Miller in this spot. But if I get +125 or +130 later in the week, I'm just going to have to double down. I will fade the market gladly in this position. Folks, we have been crushing this year on recency bias. The spots where everybody swings from, oh, you're a lock, to, oh, you're garbage. Those are the spots that have provided us the most value in 2023. This insane 80-unit run that we're on this show has been bankrolled by those types of spots. We got one here. It's ugly, it's nasty, but Miller's got a lot of advantages in this fight. She's got a lot of opportunities to take advantage of a very young green fighter. who can absolutely come back from a loss in this spot. It wouldn't be a black mark on her record to get welcomed to the UFC and take an L to the Ultimate Fighter winner and then work her way back as she got older. She's young, she's green, she makes mistakes, and that's what I'm counting on. I think Miller's going to get her out of there too.
100%. I mean, she's a very, very live dog. Very live dog.
Dixon Sider asking me if Miller loses, will I open an OnlyFans? Shit, Dixon Sider, I don't need her to lose. My OnlyFans launches next week. Feet pics, folks. We're going to be sending out feet pics. I'll write the fight play with a Sharpie on the bottom of my foot. You guys can enjoy that.
Oh.
Mushroom in the house saying Miller round 3 or decision. I love that we've got some early agreement going on here with the regulars. That's what's up. All right, everybody. Next fight we want to talk to you about here on the card is going to be Montserrat Ruiz taking on Jaqueline Amorim. If you guys recall Montserrat Ruiz, she's our favorite neck tattooed lady here. She's been out of commission, Brady. And I was like, man, why haven't I seen Montserrat Ruiz in like a really long time? Oh, it's because they sacrificed her to the altar that is Amanda Lemos. They were like, oh, you weren't supposed to get a UFC win and you managed one. Cool. Let's give Amanda Lemos an easy dub. Highlight reel KO. Mwah. UFC matchmaking at its finest. Folks, she got brought in to make who was then Cheyenne Buys look good. She was supposed to come in and get stomped by Cheyenne Vlismas, and she managed to head and arm throw her way to a decision victory. And then she got torched by Amanda Lemos. And now she comes back, and they are matching her up with none other than her opponent here, who I've got a real fond memory of Jaqueline Amorim, Brady, because this girl was brought in and trotted around like she was just going to take over. She's the next belt holder. She's got a ground game that nobody else is going to be able to match. And it's all over, but the crying for Sam Hughes, not my girl, Brady. Sam Hughes, you can take her down, but you can't keep her there. You can try and lock up a sub, but you ain't going to get the tap. My girl will never quit. She is all heart, and she worked her way right on back into the fight and beat the brakes off of this girl. She's 6-1. My girl Sam Hughes took that O right off of Jaqueline Amorim. Love to see it. But I think this is where she gets right. I think Jaqueline Amorim had the case of the jitters. You know, she came into the UFC. She made her debut, bit of an adrenaline dump. Sam Page doesn't go away easily, and she put everything she had into trying to get that first round finish. She's got power. She's got nasty jiu-jitsu. She transitions to the back quicker than anything I've ever seen. This girl is slick, and she's all round one subs. She's training at ATT, so she's got a great camp around her, good bodies to be working with. 7-inch reach advantage for Jaqueline Amorim, which is a rare thing in women's MMA. You don't usually see that kind of a wingspan here when it comes to a reach advantage. Montserrat Ruiz is small, Brady, and the only thing that she had going for her in that fight against Vlismas was the head and arm choke, or the head and arm throw. She's going to give her back up to Jaqueline Amorim. Amorim's right back on the horse here with a first round sub. I'm not laying the minus 250, but honestly, I don't mind her in parlays, and I'm waiting for that sub prop to come out. I know it's going to be even money. I don't give a shit. I'm still going to take it. Like, she's going to finish this girl, and it's going to be early. I've never been more convinced of anything in my life. It's another recency bias spot, Brady. If she didn't lose to Sam Hughes, is she minus 600 in this spot? Like, minus 250 is a discount, my guy. What do you make of this fight?
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I agree. What I will say about that Sam Hughes fight is, I mean, Sam Hughes clearly cheated. I mean, there were clips going.
Careful.
Clip. I mean, there are clips going around. I went back and watched that fight, and that rear naked choke was so in, man. It was so in. And then you see Sam Hughes just grab the gloves, and Amorim's talking to the ref like she's grabbing the gloves, and the ref just looking at her. And it happened a couple times as well. So, you know, I think if you're right, I think if she did end up, you know, submitting Sam Hughes in the first round, maybe this matchup's not even happening. But yeah, I think Amorim is the real deal, I guess. But I think she's the real deal in the first round. Like, my concern with Amorim is if this fight does reach the second round, you know, she didn't look great at all in the Hughes fight. All of her wins come in the first round, which is like wild for a strawweight. But I'm with you. I think she gets the fight down to the mat at some point and gets to finish by sub. But the submission prop already on a Monday is minus 125, and then Amorim in round 1 is plus 125, which again is, kind of ridiculous for a 115-pound fight. But yeah, I think the most likely scenario is Amorim sub 1, but I don't think you're getting any value on that whatsoever. Staying away from the money line, staying away from this fight as a whole. If this fight reaches the second round, I think a live bet on Ruiz is very much in play, just because Amorim looked atrocious once the fight reached the second round there.
I hear you. I hear you. But honestly, man, the one thing I would say in this particular spot is that she's going to be gifted the back position again. Sam Hughes defended takedowns well. The fight got extended and she made this girl work, and she stuffed takedowns and ran away and reset and went back to battle. Ruiz is going to go for the head and arm toss. So if she runs in for a body lock, she's going to get hip tossed, and that's going to give her the grappling opportunity. That's going to give her back control on her opponent. So I think she'll get bailed out. Like, even if she doesn't get the first round finish in this spot, she's got the perfect opponent just to say, go on here. Here's my neck. So I think she's going to get an opportunity even deeper in this fight to still go ahead and sync that submission up.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see if Ruiz attempts that head and arm. I mean, it wouldn't be smart, but if she does it, she's probably getting subbed instantly.
Maybe, yeah, I think so. And that's where it gets gross, right? Like, can you imagine minus 120, minus 130 on an inside the distance for a women's MMA fight? But
I actually laid minus 140 on Suarez inside the distance, and I didn't feel too great about it, but I mean, it hit.
It cashed though, did it not? Like, that's the thing, man. Sometimes these spots, look, I tried to make the argument to go the other way. I thought this fight gets extended. We start seeing Andrade get comfortable and get back in the fight. And it looked like that was starting to happen, Brady. It looked like that might be starting to come true. And then she's been hanging out a little too much with Patchy Mix for my liking. She jumps guillotine, locks up the sub. Minus 140, minus 150 players. Y'all got your cash. It ends up working out. Like, sometimes you just got to pay the price. And honestly, I think Amorim is the one in this spot where, like I mentioned, we're getting a steep discount here against a fighter the UFC has zero interest in. I'm sorry. Montserrat Ruiz, as much as we love her and her neck tattoo, the UFC doesn't want anything to do with her. She's being used to prop up these fighters. Amorim needs a bounce back. That's what she's getting.
Yeah, I like the bunny tail of Ruiz. She comes out there with the bunny tail and shakes it around. I kind of like that. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Amorim finishes there.
That's a good touch. My guy Dixon Sider asking for the more intellectual crowd whether or not she's got an OnlyFans. I don't know, my guy. I do apologize. You'll have to figure that one out yourself. Shout out. We got a new member here. KJ becoming a member here at Pub Sports Radio. Thank you very much, my guy. And that's actually a perfect segue here. Do want to let you guys know we don't have a whole lot of you in the MMA chat as members. We need to get some more. We're bringing free content to you guys here at Pub Sports Radio, and we are going to start doing members only content and shows. Football season right around the corner. One of the big things is Pub Sports Radio is doing an entry into the Super Book, the Super Contest for football picks. So on Thursday nights, we're going to be doing a live stream. You can come in, vote for your picks, and it'll be picks voted by the chat that get entered weekly as our contest entries. And we're going to split the winnings with everybody here that's going to be in the member spot, assuming we get to that $1 million payoff at the end of that bad boy. So if you want to join Pub, now's a damn good time to do it. All right, everybody. Next fight on the docket is Josh Parisian, who is taking on Martin Buday. And you guys know I've got a little soft spot here for Martin Buday. Guys, I think this is another spot where, quite frankly, it's a bit of a cheap line, Brady. We've got Buday as a minus 200 favorite, and you've got the comeback on Josh Parisian plus 165. Why isn't Buday a bigger favorite? Like, Josh Parisian is probably the worst heavyweight on the roster at this point. Like, he's in the runnings for being the bottom of the barrel at this stage. And I don't understand why the line is this close, because even though Buday, a lot of people, worried about him stealing that fight against Breeden. I know his last win came over Collier. He didn't finish him. Like, yeah, it's all sketchy. It's all close. It's sloppy, low-level heavyweights. I get it. But Josh Parisian just got taken down 5 times against Jamal Pugs. The guy's got no takedown defense to speak of. You know what else he doesn't have at the weight class he's in, Brady? Power. Heavyweights without power are doomed in the UFC. Like, you just cannot get the respect of your opponent with your strikes. It's over. Like, the guy's a BJJ black belt, supposedly. We've never seen it put to use. He's useless unless he's on top. He doesn't do a damn thing from his back. Now, the one thing I will give Josh Parisian is his ground and pound. He's got filthy ground and pound. If he gets on top of you, he's got a lot of TKOs on his record. It doesn't come from being on the feet. It comes from pounding these guys from like a back control position, from being in the mount. If he gets you there, you're in trouble. If he can't get you down and he has no wrestling to speak of, it's just not going to happen. He's going to have to point his way to a victory. Boudet is big. He's a real heavyweight. He's strong. He has good, solid takedowns. He will grind you up against the cage. And he's got those knees, Brady, the clinched knees. That's like the best weapon Boudet has in his toolbox. And I have a hard time seeing him lose this fight. Like, he's got good enough pace that I think he will keep up with a guy like Josh Parisian. And then the thud when he lands versus the lack of sound when Josh Parisian throws a shot out there. I think that's going to be the difference. Just the bigger, harder, more impactful shots in this fight are going to come from Martin Boudet. And I could see him being a larger price tag in this spot. I actually think minus 200 is a little cheap here. What do you think?
Really? Even after the hype video that was released?
You know, that's a good point, Brady. That's a very good point. The hype video, absolutely. All right, that explains the number.
It might, man. But I mean, I'll tell you this, Clint. I mean, if Martin Boudet wrestled, I would max bet him here. I mean, if Martin Boudet wrestled,
exactly,
he should be minus 1,000. Martin Boudet has attempted 0 takedowns in the UFC. 0, not one. Against Chris Barnett, 0 takedowns attempted. Lucas Bresky, 0. Collier, 0. He's attempted 0 takedowns, gotten 0 of them, right? I mean, he could take down Parisian so easy. And it's frustrating with Boudet because this guy is a brown belt in BJJ. You watch his fights outside the UFC. He does get takedowns. And when he gets on top, he's nasty, man. He is very heavy on top. He has great ground and pound. He has a little bit of a submission game as well. I think he could style on Josh Parisian if he goes for takedowns. It's just he hasn't done it yet. So if I knew for a fact he'd wrestle, I'd be max betting him. But odds are he's probably going to hold Parisian against the cage for 15 minutes, and it's going to be the worst fight on the card, and he will win, but it's going to be a very awful, awful fight. So, I mean, I'm staying away, but I think Boudet should win. He has so many more ways to win, and the one way he does lose, though, if he comes out there with the same game plan he had against Bresky, and it was weird, in the Bresky fight, the game plan should have been push Bresky against the cage, wear on him, you're the much bigger guy. But he ended up just striking at range with Bresky for 3 rounds, and he actually got outlanded in all 3 rounds. Luckily, the judges suck, and they scored it for Boudet. But if he strikes at range with
Saved
Parisian,
my ass that night.
yeah, I know Weezy got a big bet on Boudet as well. But yeah, I mean, if he strikes with a Parisian at range for 15 minutes, that is how he loses. But I mean, that would be just the dumbest thing ever. So yeah, give me Boudet to push Parisian against the cage. This fight's gonna suck, but if he goes for takedowns, I think he can make it look really easy. It's just will he or will he not? And again, the hype video is something to mention because Parisian did show very, very heavy elbows, and if it turns out Parisian can flip the script, get on top, we saw that Parisian was hitting the bag very hard with those elbows, but don't think it's all that likely. Give me Boudet. I don't know if it's decision or what, man. I could see this being a sloppy decision, but I don't know. Do you think you're gonna have anything on this fight from like a betting perspective? I think he's like minus 220 now.
Man, see, that's kind of the problem. I actually want to lay it with Boudet. Like, I am tempted to lay 2-1 on Boudet because I do think it's more than possible for him to finish. And if it goes 15 minutes, I still think he's going to be the guy getting the win. And he could look just massively discounted in hindsight if he wrestles, like you talked about. 1 takedown, this fight could be over first round. Boudet could look like the guy everyone was hyped about on Dana White's Contender Series, finally 3 fights into his UFC career. So I'm tempted to lay it here. I'm a little scared to parlay it because then it's tied to something else. And if he is the leg that busts like Bahamondes was last week on my Billy Q bet, I'm going to be just in shambles this week. I don't know if I actually want to do that or not. And I don't know if I want to trust him to get that finish. So as much as I think inside the distance is probably the way to go, it might not be safe to bet that way because he could just grind away another cage fighting decision and ruin that bet. So believe it or not, I think stacking up and laying the 2-1 might be the best way to approach this if you're going to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I parlayed Budai in the Bresky fight, and I was on my way to the Ohio River with my television, and I was planning on tossing my television into the Ohio River. Luckily, the judges scored it for him. But the next fight after that, I did parlay him with Lupita Godinez when she fought Angela Hill, and then I ended up throwing my television into the Ohio River because obviously a terrible performance. But yeah, parlaying Martin, it just sounds nasty. It sounds dirty. It sounds greasy. But he should win this fight. I mean, there's no way he should lose. So I get it.
He really should. And that's that's like last week. Ignacio Bahamondes really should have won that fight. And I'm a little scared. I'm a little nervous, but I think he gets the win. I really do. Shout out our guy here at Pub Sports Radio, MMA Locker Room in the house. What's up, buddy? Thanks for tuning into the show. Good to see you, my guy. Next fight up, we are talking about Francis the Fire Marshal taking on Isaac Dulgarian in a really weird fight. Brady, a really weird fight. I can't quite wrap my brain around this one. I'm having a bit of a tough time. I'm hoping you can maybe shed a little bit of light for me. You've got Isaac Dulgarian, the plus 130 underdog, minus 160, the favorite Francis Marshall. And Dulgarian is an interesting case. He's 5-0, undefeated. He trains out of Factory X Muay Thai, 27 years old, and he was the guy that won on Looking for a Fight back in 2022. Now, shout out to some of our guys that do the interviewers, James Lynch specifically in this case. Talk to this guy. He's the one that got the Full Send contract, Brady. And apparently, Full Send did this man dirty. So, like, they gave him a contract on the show, and it was like a TV-only contract. So there wasn't ever actually any meat and potatoes to said contract. It was just something to show on camera that he was signing and everyone get hyped up and excited. There was nothing legally binding in that actual contract. And then they talked to the guy afterward and ghosted him. So like he just got left hanging and never got any follow-up on the fact that he won this Full Send contract, thought he was getting life-changing opportunities and money. Not happening. He's just kind of back to the drawing board, unfortunately. Now he's finally getting his UFC debut a year after winning this opportunity. Dude, he's got a 4-0 AMI career. All 4 of those round 1 finishes. 5-0 pro career. All 5 of those round 1 finishes. This guy's nasty. I mean, I know he's not fighting the highest level of competition, but he is steamrolling people. I mean, we're talking sprinting across the cage, blast doubling somebody, just muscling them to the ground. And then once they get there, 2 punches is all it takes. They're gone, unconscious, meeting God. Like, this guy has ungodly explosive power. It's absolutely insane. So questionable competition, yes. But he's not struggling with any of them, Brady. He's doing what you're supposed to do with questionable competition, and that is quite literally run through them. Francis Marshall, 7-1, had his undefeated record snapped by Gomi in his last fight. Tough way to lose your undefeated record, man. Split decision loss. Real tough way to go, poor kid. But he couldn't catch him. Francis Marshall had no idea how to get his hands on Gomi in that fight. You go back and you run that tape back. He's chasing him the whole way. Can't find him. The head movement's confusing him. He's too slow. He's heavy on his feet, stalking his opponent. He does have a nice jab, and he does have decent boxing. Solid pop in his punches. Good solid level changes. Good wrestling. Good control. Seems like he's relatively solid everywhere, but still a young kid. Still not totally rounded out yet here at this point. He does have a tight squeeze on him and strong hips. 4 sub wins. All 4 of those are by rear naked choke. But Francis Marshall seems to be a little slow to me here in this spot, Brady. I am super tempted on Isaac Dulgarian. I know he's been memeing guys on his way to the UFC, but I'm not sure Francis Marshall is going to be able to go from not being able to find Gomi of all people to being able to keep up with a speed demon like Dulgarian in this spot. It's dog or pass for me at this point. Haven't pulled the trigger yet, and I really want to hear what you've got to say on this one, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's just a ton of unknowns, right? There's a ton of unknowns on the Dulgarian side. I mean, you can tape this guy in 5 minutes because that's, all the footage, like 5 minutes total. And you're right. He goes out there, these guys are lower level. These guys don't have good records, but, in the first 5 seconds, he shoots a takedown. He looks good doing it. He gets on top. A second later, he's in full mount and he's either pounding you out or submitting you. It looks good. It just doesn't tell me anything. I mean, it doesn't tell me anything at all. This is going to be his first true test here. And it looks like some money is coming in on Dulgarian. And I think people might be trying to fade, Francis Marshall after his last performance, because Francis Marshall was a favorite in his last fight against William Gomi. I know a lot of people were really high on him in that matchup, and he went out there and he just did his best William Knight impression, just did nothing for 12 and a half minutes. He didn't show up. I think he landed 5 strikes in the first round, 5 strikes in the second round, and like 5 strikes in the third round. Like you said, he couldn't really find William.
Though.
He did, but it was like way too late. And then once he did start fighting with like 2 minutes left, he almost submitted William Gomi, like out of nowhere. He had him in some very, very deep chokes, which was weird because we never saw Francis Marshall fight like that. Like in the Connor Matthews fight on the Contender Series, like from the jump, he was pressuring, he was looking good. His striking looked better than ever. Against Marcelo Rojo in his debut, he was putting it on Rojo, hurt him in the first round, knocked him out in the second. I'm not sure what was up with Francis Marshall that night, but I know for a fact he's a lot better than that. But again, there's a ton of question marks here. What happens if Isaac Dulgarian takes down Marshall? Marshall survives for the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Like, what does Dulgarian look like 2 minutes and 30 seconds into a fight, let alone the second or third round, right? So there's so many question marks for me, to the point where I don't want to lay chalk on Marshall. And if you are taking the dog shot, it is kind of like a leap of faith. It's kind of like a shot in the dark, because we really don't know what this guy's going to look like if he's not able to starch an actual fighter, because Marshall is an actual fighter. So the way I might attack this is maybe the under, just because Dulgarian's literally never been like past like 3 minutes in a first round. And the over under is actually set at 2.5. So I think the under 2.5 is probably where I'm going to attack this fight. I think, obvious, maybe a live bet spot on Marshall if he does survive, and maybe the first round prop on Dulgarian, which I saw at like plus 500, because even in his amateur career, like you said, all first round finishes, pro and amateur, this guy's getting in and he's getting out. I'm curious to see what he looks like if he's not able to run through an actual fighter in Francis Marshall.
Okay, man, I'm kind of having the same struggle here with you, and I know it would be a bit of a leap of faith, but I am absolutely looking at and interested in this live mangy dog here. Francis Marshall was just never a guy I was super enamored with. Like, I recognize the talent. I see that he's got like a well-rounded skill set. But this does seem like a weird spot where the UFC is trying to figure out who's legit, right? Like, how often do we see these young contenders matched up against each other? Usually they get soft spots and they get kind of built up a little bit before they run into each other and really make a statement as to who's going to be the future of the division, that kind of thing. It almost seems like the UFC is selling on Francis Marshall. You know what I mean? It almost seems like the UFC is going, oh, you're not quite what we thought you were. Let's throw you to the wolves here with this kid that's probably legit. And if that's the case, I definitely want to be on that side. And I will tell you guys, I got a little tweet. I got a little private message, a word from a friend of ours. Now, it's not a papered UFC pay-per-view week. It's not a big numbered week. So there is no sharp action report on Friday. But my guy, Andrew, from Superbook Sports, the risk manager over there that does that show, takes the time out of his day to let us know where the sharp action is. Let me know. The big guy came in and he bet Isaac Dulgarian this week. We know this guy shows up once every other week, every 2-3 weeks, and just hammers these spots that a lot of people don't tend to like, and he's right more often than he's wrong. He bet the dog here, Brady. The number one bettor over at Superbook Sports for MMA is on Dulgarian this week. And I mean, usually I try to be on the same side as that guy. I mean, if nothing else, tail him because he knows what he's doing and he's beating Superbook up in MMA. They shift the lines to try to help them get more action, on the opposite side whenever he comes in. They literally use him as an opportunity to make cash. So I like to be on the same side as the guy. And if this anything proves to you guys, I'm not just straight up tailing the man. Maybe I should be, but I am not just straight up tailing the guy here. I'm tempted. Don't be shocked if you see me later on in the week get in here on Isaac Dulgarian, because I do think it's a dog or pass betting spot. But I'm trying to decide whether or not, like Brady said, this could be a spot, like we talked about earlier, where everybody's jumping off the ship on Francis Marshall maybe a little too early. And I just don't want to be that guy. So I will make my decision as the week goes on. I'm going to do a little bit more research and see if I really want to be on that dog shot or not, but I might get there.
Yeah, if it turns out this Dulgarian guy has more than 5 minutes of cardio, this guy can be good, man. This guy has a wrestling background. He looks legit. It's just, can he keep that up for a long period of time in the fight? We just don't know, but I have a feeling we might find out here.
MMA Jesus saying the
Oh.
big guy over at Superbook is James Krause. God, I hope not. Shout out to our guy, Christopher Patrick. Made it live. What's up, my guy? Thank you for being here on the show. And shout out to none other than Porco Rosso with $100 dono. My man is absolutely on fire in the donation streets this week. So, Clint, I want you to have this. Money's for humans, and I'm just a pig. Porco, you are the man. Thank you so much. We definitely appreciate you here at Pub Sports Radio, my guy. You are an absolute boss. Really appreciate it, man. All right, let's move right along to another exciting matchup, Brady. We've got a short notice fill in here. Terrance T-Rex McKinney right back in the driver's seat, taking on Mike Breeden here on short notice. And, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge this. I don't do this a lot, but my guy Dixon Sider asking, what is the Cash App for private donos? And folks, for those of you who don't know, if you do tip in the live chat here, it goes to Pub Sports Radio. We've got a monthly deal. So, you know, I'm associated with them. That goes to help keeping the lights on here with us. So definitely, if you want to do your donations here in the live chat, we are grateful for it, and we absolutely love it. If you do want to reach out to me on an individual level, you can find those on Twitter and on social media. I toss those out for people. So thank you, Dixon. I appreciate that. But you can find those posts on social media if that's something that you do want to do. This fight, Brady, man, T-Rex has fallen on tough times. He went from being the MMA darling to being the guy that absolutely nobody wants a piece of. He's chinny. He's a bum. He's washed 1-3 in his last 4, all by finish when he gets taken care of. Round 1 by Dober, round 2 in back-to-back fights against Bonfim and Nazim Sadikov. I'm sad. I missed the Nazim Sadikov fade here, Brady. I wanted to use that as like a take notes type of opportunity. I wanted to watch that fight because I've kind of described Nazim as a more durable, less offensive Matt Frevola. He strikes me very much the same style of fight. He's got that good pace, good pressure, good cardio. He just doesn't hit quite as hard as Frevola does. So I thought he could outlast a guy like T-Rex and then take him out with his submission game in the second or the third round. But I wasn't sure because T-Rex is a damn good grappler. He's a damn good wrestler. He's got that offensive submission game. I wasn't sure if this guy could survive that first round. He did. So congratulations to anybody who got the cash on Nazim Sadikov. I missed out. But here we have a spot where Mike Breeden has been away for quite some time. He is 10-5, 0-2 in the UFC organization here. If you count the Dana White's Contender Series, he is 0-3, lost on Contender Series, got back-to-back wins on the regionals, and then he got nuked by Alexander Hernandez in round 1 back in 2021. He got dismantled by Natan Levy in 2022. We haven't seen him since, and now he is getting this opportunity against Terrance McKinney. You got to think back is against the wall here, man. You got to think it's a tough spot for him. I actually bet Mike Breeden against Natan Levy because I am not a Levy believer, and I wanted to target that gas tank, and he damn near got it done, Brady. In the third round of that fight, Breeden was still coming forward. Levy was flopping on his back, Damian Maia Anderson Silva style, completely out of gas, wasting every second of that clock he could possibly buy because he had nothing left to give. And Breeden was still coming forward. Kid's got one hell of a chin on him. He's all heart, all toughness, decent boxing, and just kind of keeps marauding his way forward. The problem is he's a little weak to the body. He got dropped multiple times by Levy. Again, a guy I've said that I really personally do not believe in here at the UFC level. And he's taking on Terrance McKinney. I know a lot of people are jumping in on that early number on Mike Breeden, and I think the book set this line so wide for bait, man. I think a lot of people are going to take the stab here on Mike Breeden, and I think this is a get-right spot for Terrance McKinney. I don't know that Breeden can take the onslaught, the offense that McKinney brings to bear here. He's not going to be able to stop the takedowns. Breeden has no takedown defense to speak of. And if Terrance is able to get those positional control spots, I think he subs him. And honestly, on the feet, if McKinney would just take a deep breath and slow down just a hair, Brady, target the body, I think he folds this guy. I think this is a spot where we see Terrance McKinney kind of come back to what he started off as. Quick starter, early finish, take care of business, and get Breeden out of there. It's hard to trust him at this number, especially with what we've seen in the last couple of fights. But I think it's warranted. Minus 300 Terrance McKinney, plus 240 Mike Breeden. I would be looking inside the distance or nothing. It's another spot where you don't want Terrance McKinney busting up your parlay if he happens to gas dump in round 2 and get finished himself. So don't parlay him. Buy down, take him inside the distance, call it a day. What are you doing here, Brady?
Yeah, so I was taping this fight, and I'm thinking to myself, man, this could be a good buy low spot on Terrance McKinney. Because I remember on Twitter after the Daukaus fight, you're right. Everybody's like, "Oh, McKinney's a bum." Everybody's like, "Cut this guy." I'm like, "What? Cut this? Why would you cut Terrance McKinney? He's exciting. Like, why would they want to cut McKinney? Like, they're letting Daniel Da Silva get like 6 fights. Why can't McKinney and go out there and do that?" So I thought people might be low on McKinney, and I checked the line. I was like Sunday, and it said McKinney minus 400. I was like, what? Oh my gosh! And then money has came in on. Yeah, absolutely. You know, money has came in on Mike Breeden, which rightfully so. McKinney shouldn't really be minus 400 against anybody, but I agree. I mean, McKinney should win this fight. He should win it in the first round. But when we're talking about laying minus 300 on somebody who, you know, has 5 minutes of cardio in general, but on top of that, coming in on short notice, it's not really something you want to do. Like, if you're going to play Terrance McKinney, why not just play him in round 1 to get that price tag down, or like you said, inside the distance to get that price tag down? So yeah, I think McKinney can win this in a lot of ways. But I think all those ways have to come in like the first round. I think McKinney can go out there and do what Alexander Hernandez did, just bull rush this guy. Just let off on a big combination, you know, mix it to the body and hurt him to the body and finish him there. Or, yeah, take down Mike Breeden, who has just terrible takedown defense. We saw Levy take this guy down 10 times. We saw Levy put this guy in some bad spots. I will say Mike Breeden is a brown belt in BJJ for what it's worth. But, yeah, McKinney should have, you know, plenty of opportunities in those first 5 minutes to go out there and either knock out Mike Breeden or submit Mike Breeden. If you lay minus 300 on Terrance McKinney, and the fight hits the second round, you are going to be terrified. I mean, that is a terrifying thing to think about, right? If you lay this price tag on McKinney and this Breeden guy lasts 5 minutes, you know, things are going to get bad very quickly. I think the Breeden round 2, round 3 props could be interesting sprinkles this week if they're like crazy numbers. But I think the most likely scenario is, you know, Terrance McKinney gets right, and he gets a little bit of hype back after losing a lot of hype in his last couple fights.
All right. Glad to hear we see this thing the same, Brady. I completely agree. I think this is a good spot. I think he's positioning himself for a comeback in this spot, and I think he picked the right opponent to do it. Yeah, I mean, if Breeden's getting hurt by a guy like Levy, I'm sorry, I can't trust you to survive what T-Rex does. Now, he is, and for Let's Dance, I'm going to give my guy all the credit. I put a bet on him myself. He is well-rounded. He does have those BJJ credentials. He is tough. He has heart. Like, I'm not knocking him whatsoever. I just don't know if his heart is enough to survive the offense that Terrance McKinney comes with in round 1. And I know it's, you know, T-Rex, do you want this price on a guy that's got 1 round in the gas tank? But I think this is the kind of opponent that he's not going to be overly afraid of. And because of that, he'll blow right through him. We'll find out. We'll find out on Saturday. But when it comes to, you know, DFS, I'm not very good. I have yet to take down anything in MMA, but I will have Terrance McKinney on my lineup on Saturday.
By the way, Wheezy last night on our show Stat Diggers, he had a hot take. And the hot take was this fight's going to end under 1.5 rounds. And I want to one up Wheezy. My hot take is I think this fight finishes inside the distance. You heard it here first.
Ooh, all right. All right. 1-ups on the hot takes here. Brady, the king of the hot take. If you guys haven't noticed, this man knows how to get the crowd started with these fire reads on these fights. All right, everybody, real quick, let's pay a couple of bills here. First off, need to introduce you to my sponsors. First and foremost, Pub Sports Radio right here. They take care of us. They're hosting the show. We got to be grateful to them. Check out pubsportsradio.com. We've got a weekly pick'em contest, and we also can track all the cappers picks here at Pub Sports Radio. You can see your boy right there highlighted on the screen. It is a free pick'em contest. Pick your fighter, pick your round, pick your method, and our boss Slaughter puts up $100 every single week for free. Free entry. Beat the Pub Sports Radio personalities, win $100. It's that simple. Unless I'm mistaken, he started sprinkling the pot just a little bit bigger every single week too. If we get more than 100 entries, it's an extra $1 per entry over 100. So if you guys want a bigger pot, get in the contest, get more people involved. We'll move that number up. Next up, Spectation Sports. If you guys want to see these fighters coming up, if you want to study for Dana White's Contender Series, they've got all your activity right here at Spectation Sports. Use promo code DIEHARD for 20% off. You can do monthly or annual subscriptions, and they've got some awesome shows. Aries Fight Series, the Underground Nashville card was a banger. They've got another one coming up just this next week. Make sure you check out Spectation Sports for any regional scene MMA interests. Next up, the Sharp app. Football season right around the corner, folks. I can't tell you shit about football, but if you're into crunching the numbers, analytics, data, models, the Sharp app has all of that information there for you. They cover every single sport out there. They can show you where the sharp money is. They can show you where the public money is. They've got a whale that they keep tabs on. He actually just took a bath yesterday, 0-3. Poor guy lost like $100,000 in one single day. It was kind of nasty. But that's what you get from the Sharp app. They can definitely help out your betting game. Check them out. Check out the Discord. Sign up. And last but certainly not least, Bet Openly, the new sponsor here for the show. You guys, if you have heard me talk about this one, I apologize. I'm going to keep talking about them. You guys need to hear about this. Bet Openly is peer-to-peer betting. We cut out the middleman, cut out the bookies, and everybody gets better numbers. That's right. Instead of paying minus 110, you're paying minus 101 because they only take 1% juice. We naturally will end up on opposite sides of bets. So instead of making the money with a bookie, you can actually make that bet with another individual out there on Bet Openly, meaning everybody gets better odds. For instance, I'm betting the over 8 for some DGen action tonight, Yankees and White Sox. They got it at plus 109. Everybody else has even money or minus 105. I'm getting a better number on that because of Bet Openly. And if nothing else, guys, do your boy a favor. It helps me out. Click the link. Just make sure to drive some activity there for you. I put it in the chat there. If everybody could hit that button for me and check it out. I think this week we're going to do a contest giveaway. They've got like a $10 contest, $10 entry fee, winner take all, top of the pot. I think we're going to give away some free contest entries so you guys can win some free money. If you sign up, you have to be signed up with an account to enter the contest. I will put details out on Twitter later on this week, so keep an eye out for that. But you got to be signed up, so you might want to start that process now if you want to win some free cash courtesy of Bet Openly. All right. Let's move the show right along here. Brady, what do you say? Next up, we're having a detailed conversation about Marcus McGhee and JP Buys. Marcus McGhee appears to be the biggest favorite on the board today. He is a minus 400 favorite. The comeback on JP Buys is plus 300. And Marcus McGhee made his UFC debut on short notice his last fight and just took everybody by storm. He fights out of the lab, which is a great gym. We know they all do Osterine. It's a whole thing. He absolutely has the well-rounded game that you're looking for coming to the UFC, but he's 33 years old, Brady. I feel like we're getting the final version of this guy, even though he's just getting started here with the UFC. He's got all of his wins by finish. 6 wins by knockout, 1 by sub, and his only loss comes by sub as well. This is an inside the distance, barn burner type of fighter. He came in against Journey Newsom, who most of you guys know I've got opinions on. I love Journey Newsom. He's an Arizona fighter. I got to cheer for him there, hometown boy. But he was favored rather decently over this guy when he made his UFC debut, right? And at minus 190, he dropped the ball to Marcus McGhee. So that tells you what the odds makers were thinking of McGhee prior to getting to the UFC. Gets one impressive win on short notice, and here he is, a minus 400 favorite. Now, JP Buys. Brady, let's talk about JP Buys. This guy has had a really rough run so far in the UFC. It's been a little tough to watch. He wins on Contender Series next to his girl at the time. She dumps him, and he goes on an 0-3 skid, 2 of those by finish. Takes on Bruno Silva and gets absolutely murked by Bruno Silva. Catches him right in the temple and gets knocked out. Goes up a weight class, takes on Montel Jackson. Actually looks pretty fucking good as a plus 475 underdog. Takes Montel Jackson down, has him in trouble, takes his back, mounts him. Like, this guy styled on Montel Jackson, grappling. And then was just too small. Couldn't keep up, couldn't keep it going, got overpowered. And then he takes on Cody Durden. That's right. Cody fucking Durden. You've got 2 wrestlers, one of them who's more durable, one of them who hits a little harder. Who do you think is going to win that? Yeah, Cody Durden gets it done as an even money, not favorite, even money fighter there in that spot. 1 punches this guy, puts him out in the first round. It's been tough for JP Buys. But Brady, could this not be a recency bias spot? Could this not be a spot where everybody sees McGhee come in here and win on short notice when nobody's expecting him to over what is essentially a bottom of the barrel fighter in the UFC? And thinks he's way better than he probably is? I wonder what his tests come back like on short notice. I wonder if he pumps the brakes on the Osterine now that he's under the USADA banner and is actually testing here in the UFC. I wonder if he's going to look as good in his sophomore debut fight. And you guys look back at that loss, the one loss that he had. It was in LFA. It wasn't that long ago. And he got his back taken and had no answers. For a guy coming from the lab, I was incredibly disappointed. He did nothing right. He got stuck in that spot, didn't even watch his neck, and within minutes, it was over. Got rear naked choke, tapped out. Brady, you had a bold prediction to give the people earlier. My bold prediction is that JP Buys is going to submit Marcus McGhee on Saturday. I think he comes out, and when these guys car crash, which they will, because that's how Marcus McGhee fights. He likes to play at range, karate style, and then he just explodes in. If JP just times that and takes this man down, it's over. All he's going to need is one. This man's going to find the back. This man's going to wrap up a neck, and he's going to call it a day. I can't wait to see what the JP Buys by sub number is. I can't wait to see what the JP Buys by sub round 1 is, because I'm taking it, Brady. This is a spot where I looked at this, and on paper, before doing any study, I just went, oh, yeah, of course McGhee's going to knock him out. Of course he is. And then I dug in a little deeper. I mean, JP Buys is training with like Merab and Aljo. And I know we said that last week against O'Day, and we know how that went. But the difference between those guys, Brady, is that O'Day is a striker with no cardio whatsoever. JP Buys is the kind of guy that follows the game plan of a Merab or an Aljo. Like, he's a grappler. He's a strong wrestler. He's got great cardio. Like, he is actually the type of guy that they can kind of infuse their style into. And I think he's better than this kid from the lab that got one win in the UFC. I'm gonna take JP Buys. I'm gonna take him by sub.
Yeah, I mean that's a hot take. I like Mushroom hot take. Mushroom's hot take was the fight starts round 1. I mean, it looks like there's like a yes, I like that
Mushroom. I like that. I like that.
It looked like there was like a bear outside my window. Hopefully,
you good?
Maybe a deer. I hope so. But it's outside.
Hope it's a deer, not a bear.
It looked like a big animal, but I just barely saw it. So hopefully everything's okay. But yeah, back to this fight. I mean, that's how Bays wins. First round sub. That's how he wins. And yeah, you're right with the recency bias, man. I think McGhee is a very solid fighter. What I don't like for Bays in this matchup is that he's coming back up to bantamweight. And even at flyweight, he looked kind of small, right? So now he's coming up to bantamweight. He's going to be very undersized in this matchup. But you're right. The path will be there. It's just, will he be able to take down Marcus McGhee? We've seen in Marcus McGhee's only loss that he was taken down. He was subbed for what it's worth. But yeah, if JP Bays does not get this fight down to the mat, I think he's probably getting knocked out. I have some serious concerns about the chin of JP Bays. This guy, JP Bays, has been knocked down 8 times in 3 fights. 8 times in 3 fights as a flyweight. Like those numbers are wild. Those numbers make Malcolm Gordon look like he has an iron chin. I mean those numbers are terrifying. So yeah, I mean, if JP Bays gets this fight down to the mat, I like his game, man. He has good wrestling, he has very good grappling, but in JP Bays fights, if he does not get that first round finish, more often than not, he kind of falls off a cliff once that fight hits the second round. So that's why I think it has to be in the first round. It has to be early, and maybe he gets opportunities. I can't get there myself, but at the same time, I can't get to minus 360 on Marcus McGhee. So I'll be passing on this one. But I think JP Bays' first round sub is his win condition, and that might even be a prop I take a look at this week. I'm going to say McGhee does stuff the takedowns since he will be the bigger fighter, and his takedown defense did look much improved in the Newson fight, and knocks out JP Bays late first round. But this is a fight that I probably won't have much action on, if any at all.
Brady, what if I told you that there was a key outlier in the numbers here for Mr. JP Bays?
Let's hear it.
He's been finished in 3 of his fights. He's had 3 losses in the UFC. He's only been finished in 2 of them. Those 2 losses both came at 125 pounds. The fight he made it to the judges' scorecards in was, in fact, the 135-pound fight against Montel Jackson. I got to wonder if his chin isn't better. with the extra 10 pounds, Brady. I got to wonder if maybe he can't absorb a little bit of damage with a little extra water around his brain. It seems like my guy might be just a teensy bit more durable up at 135. And if that's the case, Mr. Give Up My Back, Marcus McGhee is fucked. And if this guy can take down Montel Jackson with no issues, mind you, zero problems doing it whatsoever. If he can take down Montel Jackson that easily, he can take down Marcus McGhee. I actually, like, the more I look at this spot, Brady, the more I'm going, here we go. Like, this is another recency bias spot where I'm just going to tell all the casuals, play it. Folks, if you don't like the crazy, if you don't like the tinfoil hat, if you can't stomach betting on somebody who we know for a fact has a rough chin, I get it. Please don't parlay Marcus McGhee at minus 400. That's all I'm asking you. That's your PSA for this week. Please don't parlay Marcus McGhee, because if he is the parlay buster this week, everyone's going to you're going to look in hindsight and go, why did I parlay a minus 400 guy that has one UFC fight? That's what everybody's going to say. And I just don't want you to be that guy. Keep some money in your pocket. Let's go. And there have been a couple people in the chat. By the way, guys, I'm sorry. I'm in full podcast mode. I have not been ignoring you. My mistake. A couple people asking for the Dana White's Contender Series content, and I mentioned it at the top of the show. I will repeat myself. I don't have a Dana White's Contender Series breakdown for you. I don't have a video breakdown or podcast for you on Dana White's Contender Series. If I have time, I will study them as much as I can and add them to the end of my Monday podcast. Couldn't do it this week. You find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram. I'll post my cards. If I get to anything I like, that's where it'll be, kind of like how I do Bellator and PFL. Unfortunately, until the day I can hang up the day job, and do this full time, I just won't have time to do it. However, there's a lot of really sharp people in the community who are doing shows. I believe, Brady, did you say you're doing a show? Did you guys break down Dana White's Contender Series?
Yeah, I already posted a video today on it.
There you go. So our guest right here has a show where he takes care of it. Liam and Gordo are doing it. I know Narco Cop is as well. John Kelly. Like, there's a lot of people within the MMA community who are regular guests on this show who do break down that content for you. So there's plenty of people out there to look for. Next fight up is going to be Josh Fremd taking on Jamie Pickett. And Brady, if people played a drinking game of every single time I said the words recency bias on this podcast, they'd be dead right now. They would just be dead right now. Let me start this. Fremd shouldn't be minus 300 over anybody. Not a single person on the damn roster. He doesn't deserve to be minus 300 over anybody. And let us not forget that y'all wanted to bury Cedric Dumas. Like, everybody wanted to just burn that man at the stake. He was a perfect example of a recency bias spot. He came back in his second fight, and he absolutely got it done against a guy in, what's his name? I'm absolutely drawing a blank here on the Factory X kid that he beat, that we know he's a fan of the show. Our guy Lou loves him. Brundage, thank you. Oh my God, there's too many fighters swimming around in my brain right now. I was thinking Jacoby, but they're like tight training partners. That's why. Yeah. Anyway. So that's exactly what we're talking about here, right? Josh Fremd is 2-1 in the UFC. That first win coming from Cedric Dumas, and he got choked out by Tresean Gore. He got absolutely mauled by Fluffy Hernandez, which no shame in that. Short notice against Fluffy, that's going to happen. But Brady, I've got worries about this man's cardio. I've got worries about this man's grappling defense. He carries his hands low. He's a solid striker, but he is there to be hit. And he's got some chin concerns. Like, he's not the most durable man we have ever seen fight in MMA. Carries those hands low, very hittable from counterpunchers. He does have a good range-findy jab, good hard low kicks, but he's kind of slow. And he makes these horrific grappling errors. Now, I know he ended up actually taking down and submitting Cedric Dumas, but we all know that Cedric hasn't done jack shit when it comes to his grappling. He's got a guillotine on him. That's literally it. He doesn't know what he's doing on the mat. So for this guy to out-grapple him, I'm not impressed. The Tresean Gore fight looked like he was in the driver's seat. Left his head out on a takedown. He shoots bad takedowns when he's hurt, and he leaves his neck out every damn time. Tresean Gore grabbed it and made him pay. In the Cedric Dumas fight, Brady, in round 2, literally right before he got the submission, this man gave up his back. Like, he went from being in the driver's seat on a takedown to Cedric having his back. And if Cedric didn't not know what he was doing, he would have sunk hooks in and the other guy would have won. Like, anybody who's a competent grappler probably gets the back of this man, Josh Fremd, and finishes him there in the second round of that fight. So I don't trust him whatsoever. And I don't think he should be this big of a favorite over literally anybody. And I know Jamie Pickett is not a shining example of a UFC caliber fighter. He's 13-9. He's on a 3-fight skid, all 3 by finish. Daukaus, Tululian, Nickel. But Brady, can we just have a moment of silence for Jamie Pickett's balls? This man cannot catch a break. He gets fouled in every single fight. Dennis Tululian gave him 2 cup shots from hell. Did they stop that fight? No, they did not. He got back in there and got knocked out for his goods. Bo Nickel, right before the sub, Jamie Pickett was actually doing a pretty good job of defending the takedowns. He was actually doing pretty good up against the cage against the all-star grappler Bo Nickel. And then he got kneed right in the junk. And he tried to have that decision overturned, and the commission was like, nah, get out of here. Like, don't get me wrong. Bo Nickel was still winning that fight. Like, Pickett was never going to actually win that fight. But the nut shot led to him getting submitted a whole lot faster than he probably otherwise would have. So basically, he's had a bit of a run of bad luck. He's been up against some really good guys. You know, Kyle Daukaus is a very talented grappler. And that was another one where he did okay defending the takedowns of Kyle Daukaus, and he tapped with literally 1 second left on the clock. It was that sneaky ass darce that Kyle snuck in there that he wasn't ready for, couldn't hang on for just one more breath. He gave up that tap. You give him a step down in competition, though, and what do you get? Joseph Holmes, he works that guy. Lenaro Strawpoli, he works that guy. Like, he's a bit of a head case. He's not very confident. He can push these guys up against the cage. He's got good gas tank. And honestly, when he lets his hands go, he actually hits pretty hard, but he never really trusts himself to go over on that. And that's kind of my biggest concern here with Jamie Pickett, is that I wonder where his confidence is at. He's got to be pretty shot at this point, you know, getting handled the way he has. But I think this is a winnable fight for him. I don't know if I've got the balls to take Jamie Pickett on an 0-3 skid against Josh Fremd, but just on principle, Brady, Josh Fremd minus 350 makes me want to throw up in my mouth. Like, I might look for the sub prop for Jamie Pickett just because it's probably some stupid number, and I might sprinkle that and hope that Josh Fremd gives up his back or his neck again one more time and see if I can cash out that way. I'm probably going to pass on this fight, but I hate this number. And the fact that everyone's just piling in on it is making me more and more and more and more tempted to be the psychopath on the Pickett side. I'm going to, God, I guess I'll pick Fremd to win, but this is another one, folks. Be careful parlaying Josh Fremd. He's not that good. Tell me if I'm crazy, Brady.
I mean, I don't think anybody should be parlaying Josh Fremd at minus 350. So I agree in that sense. I mean, and this line's getting worse as well. Some people are parlaying up Josh Fremd. I just can't get there with Pickett, man. I mean, if Pickett could put it all together, I think this guy could be decent. I've always thought that. I thought this guy has
He's got all the pieces, right?
Yeah, he has all the pieces. He has the great frame. I think when he lets his hands go, he looks so good. He has a BJJ brown belt, maybe even a black belt at this point, but he just never puts it together. And like you mentioned, when he is winning, it's these lower level guys like a Joseph Holmes, a Lariana Staropoli, a Jonathan Patty. You know, this Josh Fremd, you know, fall into that category. I think he's better than those guys. So I just for Jamie Pickett to win this fight, you know, how does he win this fight? You know, does he cage push Josh Fremd for 3 rounds like he did against Staropoli? I don't know. Does he take down Josh Fremd? Maybe Josh Fremd has a 30% takedown defense. I just can't get there though. Just laying any money on Jamie Pickett is not something I want to do. He's actually been a money train for me lately in his last 3 fights. I had Kyle Daukaus money line, cash it. I had Dennis Tualuan by knockout, cash it. I had Bo Nickel under 1.5 rounds at chalky, but cash it. I don't think I'll have anything in here in this. I think they're onto it. Like Fremd inside the distance is minus 150. I think I'm just going to pass on this one. I think Fremd should be able to probably win this fight anywhere on the feet. Fremd's probably going to be the higher volume striker just because Pickett at times just doesn't do anything. Fremd's the harder hitter. Fremd should be able to maybe win minutes in the grappling as well against this guy. But again, it's a price tag thing, right? And laying minus 350, minus 340 on Josh Fremd just doesn't really seem like a long-term winning strategy. So I'm going to be passing on this one. I will not be betting on Jamie Pickett ever, but at the same time, I will not be parlaying up Josh Fremd this week.
Okay, there you go. I'm kind of the same thought at this point. We'll see if I change my mind there and decide to do something stupid. I have cashed a ticket on Pickett before in the past, by the way. I bet against Holmes on Pickett pretty confidently. So I've been there with my guy before. I do see the upside that he has, maybe more so than some people want to bother looking for. But I think this is a more competitive fight than this line suggests. What would you think about a split decision, Brady? What would you think about a split prop on this fight? You think we can get there?
You think it could be I mean, it could be a greasy fight. I mean, the Holmes fight was super greasy. The Staropoli fight was super greasy. Maybe it's a greasy fight. And if it does go the distance, I mean, these judges suck. And maybe it is a split. Maybe one of the judges wasn't watching, because there was a wild scorecard Saturday. I think one of the judges gave Kyler Phillips the third round against Hani Barcelos for some reason.
What was that about?
I don't know. Like, what? He was running away the whole time. I don't know.
State of judging, man.
Yeah.
The state of judging. Yep. All right. We'll see how crazy we get. At this point, it's a pass. Real quick, shout out my guy, Boston Nick, in that chat. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. If you guys need the link for the Pub Sports Radio contest, there it is. My guy in full force in the chat. Got it right there for you. Make sure you bookmark that, because like I said, every single Saturday, it's free. Get it. And our girl Jaqueline in the chat. Hey, Jaqueline, how you doing? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us and hanging out live here for the show. All right, we're getting towards the end of this bad boy. Next up, we got Tafon, Nchukwi, and AJ Dobson. This is a solid fight, Brady, one that I'm actually having a bit of a hard time with. I almost blindly bet AJ Dobson. I was this close to just pulling the trigger on him here as a dog. I kind of think it's a dog or pass situation, but I also have a little bit of baggage with Mr. Tafon Nchukwi, and I wanted to hear your thoughts. I need you to kind of talk me through this, because this could just be that gambler's revenge mindset here, because I will never forgive Tafon. I will never forgive him for fumbling the bag when he fought Azamat Murzakanov. The man is up 2 rounds to none, and his dumbass corner is telling him, go get a finish. Go get a finish. And I'm like, no, keep doing exactly what you're doing. Stay away from the power striker. Run if you have to. No, he goes out there, drops his hands, and starts slinging bombs with Azamat freaking Murzakanov. Eats a flying knee from hell in the 3rd round, and just absolutely ruins my night. So never have I forgiven Tafon since that night. 2-3 in the UFC. The last 2 have come by KO. He seemed to be a relatively durable guy, and let's not forget, he's been knocked out by a couple of brutal power punchers in his last 2 fights. So I don't know that we can say, oh, he's chinny. I question his durability. I don't know, man. Not a lot of people are surviving Azamat Murzakanov or Carlos Ulberg at this point in the UFC. So maybe a little asterisk next to that there. But he's a good rangy striker. I mean, he looks like he's built like a heavyweight fighting at this weight class. Keeps a good measured pace, decent volume, nice wide stance. Kia's with every single strike, so he's got that Chukagian thing going on. I'll bet you he'll win a split decision here or there because of that Kia there coming from the Chukagian school of striking. He keeps the distance really well. You know, he does a good job just kind of touching his opponents. He's got that power jab, and he just kind of constantly plods forward with a 1-2. And then he has that, you know, snappy head kick that he likes to throw up there, and that chopping lead calf kick that he attacks with. I really liked everything I saw from Tafon, but it seems like people have kind of figured him out at this point. AJ Dobson, 0-2 off Dana White's Contender Series. Both those losses by decision. Both those losses against really good competition. I mean, you guys know I love me some Armen Petrosyan. That's my guy. Like, a lot of people may not believe in Armen Petrosyan. I do. I love Armen Petrosyan. I think his striking skill set is way better than people give him credit for. And then he got out grappled by Jacob Malkoun. Again, like, this is a guy who shoots 17 takedowns per 15 minutes, Brady. There's no shame in getting decisionated by Jacob Malkoun in your UFC debut, no less. So I can't really hold his losses that far against him here. Had my eye on AJ Dobson for quite some time. I like him. Heavy on the feet, stomps his way forward, very athletic, very fast, you know, good head movement, rolls well with punches. He's just a little low volume. You know, sometimes he's a little too defensive. He doesn't go forward quite enough. He doesn't pull the trigger quite as much as I would like him to. But when he does, he's got solid power in his hands, and he's got good gas. Man, his coaches in the Petrosian fight, you can hear them just screaming at him because he's got all the gas in the world to go, to push the pace, to score, to get back in the fight. And he just did nothing in that spot. Now, I feel like that was, again, maybe a spot where he's just fighting too much of a better striker, maybe a little starstruck, couldn't quite figure it out. He's a young kid. Maybe we give him a pass on that one. But if that's who he is, then it's a problem. He's also got some decent wrestling in his back pocket. You know, that's something that we've seen. He is able to level change really well, takes people down. He couldn't hold Armin Petrosian down, but let's face it, not a lot of people can. So again, don't really hold that too much against him. It's a tight fight, Brady. It's a real tight fight. Minus 150 for Tafon and Nchukwi, plus 125 for AJ Dobson. I lean dog or pass in this spot. Can you sway me one way or the other? What do you make of this fight?
Nah, man, this fight confuses me. I think it's probably the toughest fight to call on the card because I'm pretty decently high on both guys, but Tafon Nchukwi I think is a really good fighter. I mean, I went back and watched that Azamat Mirzakhanov fight, and I'm not the biggest fan of Azamat Mirzakhanov. I think he's a liar. He says he's 35 years old, but we all know he's at least 60. But he's an incredible striker, and like you said, Nchukwi was outstriking him in the first round. In the second round, he was on his way to winning that fight, which would have been an incredible win. Like Mirzakhanov's no joke. And then he gets flying kneed, and then he gets starched in 60 seconds by Carlos Ulberg. But like I said, he looked good in the Mirzakhanov fight. He looked good in the Pickett fight, showing a lot of volume. This guy has very good volume, and you wouldn't think so just by the way he's built, but this guy has incredible cardio. This guy can go 15 minutes, no problem. He can push a pace. Like, this guy's landing well over 6 significant strikes per minute. So yeah, I think it's a kind of a volume thing for me in this fight. I think it's going to be Tafon, who's going to be the much higher volume striker in this matchup. He should be able to outland Dobson across three rounds. My concern is, someone in the chat said it, the potential chin issues of Tafon. I'm not sure if he's chinny, like you said, or he got caught with a flying knee, and caught by Ulberg, which is obviously a very good fighter. So I'm not sure if he does have chin issues. And if he does, maybe Dobson could catch him. But I kind of lean on the Tafon side just to do the better work across 15 minutes. But no strong lean. I think the line's about right. Tafon's slight favorite makes sense to me. As long as this chin holds up, I think he'll be the minute winner across 15. But to be honest, no interest in really betting this fight. I think it's one of the tougher fights to call on the card.
Man, I'm with you. I was talking with a buddy of mine, Justin, UFC Bro Pick. Shout out my guy. He's having a hell of a year himself this year, guys. I was chatting with him, and I was so convinced that I was going to be on Dobson. Like, pre-tape, we're talking, and I was just absolutely 100% dead set. I'm going to be betting on Dobson this week. And then as I ran the tape, I'm like, shit, man. Like, I would not be at all surprised if AJ Dobson shows up, fights up to his potential, and has just a stellar event on Saturday. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he knocks out Tafon and Nchukwi. I wouldn't be surprised if he out wrestles this guy or just grinds out a split decision win. None of those things would surprise me. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he was too low volume again. I wouldn't be surprised if he got walked down by Tafon because he's got those giant elephanty tree trunk legs and you can't get takedowns on him. And then he outvolumes you by 40 significant strikes and you lose a decision. Like, I wouldn't be surprised by that either. And that's kind of my problem here is I don't want to put my money on that kind of a spot. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's a coin I just don't think I need to flip, Brady. Like, maybe dog or pass. Maybe we're getting the right side with the plus money. I don't think it's enough. Maybe plus 155, plus 160. Now we're talking. Plus 120. It's just a little thin for me.
Agreed. Yeah, plus 150. I would definitely take the shot on Dobson, but looks like the line's coming in as well, which just makes it even less intriguing on the dog side. But I'm gonna sit back and watch this one.
It makes it tough, right? Because you're like, if I missed the good number, I don't want to pay minus 115 now. So yeah, man, ship has probably sailed for me. I'll be honest. All right. Everybody do us a favor. Smash the like button. We got 240 viewers. The best way you can support me on this show is to hit the like button. Make sure you support our guest as well. Our guy, Brady, DFS by the numbers, puts out some kick-ass MMA content weekly for you as well. Make sure you check out his Dana White's Contender Series breakdown because DWCS comes back tomorrow. Make sure you check our guy out. Next fight on the docket is Polyana Viana taking on Iasmin Lucindo. Iasmin Lucindo, Brady, is still just 21. This girl is absolutely insane, man. She's got all the skills that you're looking for. She's got a ton of experience, and she's just getting started. 19 pro fights at 21 years old. And the UFC put her in an absolute banger in her debut against Iasmin Jauregui. Really competitive, back and forth fight. She showed a lot of good stuff, but she also showed a lot of holes. She's a work in progress. She's a young fighter. She comes back in her sophomore fight against Brogan Walker and beats the brakes off that girl. Runner up on the Ultimate Fighter, and she paid off that minus 350 price tag. I'm surprised she didn't finish her, if we're being real. This girl throws heat, Brady. She's got a seeking missile of a right hand. I mean, she throws that thing straight down the pipe. Her counters are incredibly fast, real quick hands, agile, light on her feet. She's also a headhunter. So these women who do have slightly questionable chins or don't like being hit, this girl's going to knock them out when she fights them. The only problem is that she's got some questionable sub defense. The 5 losses, 3 by sub. That's a bit of a question mark coming in here against Polyana Viana. 13-5. She's tall, man. She is big for this weight class, and she is a finisher. 100% finish rate for Polyana Viana. She's got 4 decision losses. Really shows off her toughness. You know, she gets in there and she'll bang with pretty much anybody. You saw in her last fight against Jinyu Frey, knocked her out cold within the first minute. Like, I'm pretty sure, I'm going off memory here. I think I bet Polyana Viana in that spot. And I never expected that. I mean, like, the way she came out and just nuked Frey was like, damn. Tabitha Ricci, the fight before that, maybe the worst matchup for this girl possible. She's really comfortable on her back, Brady. And that's kind of the thing. If you've got good, solid submission defense and you can stay safe, then she has absolutely no problem going to her back and hunting for those submission opportunities, because she just always has that get out of jail free card. It's like Francis Ngannou punching power, where you feel like you just got to land one. That's how she feels about her jiu-jitsu game. And she really is good at setting up those chokes. She goes triangle, she goes armbar, she rolls from one to the other. Like, you're never safe with her if you get tangled up here on the ground. Lots of early round 1 submission wins on Polyana Viana's record. I am a little sketched out at the prospect of laying minus 200 on Iasmin Lucindo in this spot, because of that submission offense, because that's been her weakness in the past, because we've seen her caught on the ground before. And this is a really solid grappler, Brady. If they play on the feet, I think Iasmin Lucindo is going to be just too fast for Polyana. And what that sets up for me is just a gorgeous under, as long as they give me a good number. I just want to bet violence in this fight, Brady. I just want an opportunity to bet an under 2.5 at a decent number, because I think Iasmin can hurt Polyana Viana in the boxing. I think she can crash the pocket, get in there and land bombs at short range. And then if this fight turns into a scramble, if it hits the ground, then she's going to be in lots of danger in an area where we've seen her struggle before. And again, I mentioned her age. She's 21. Like, is it out of the realm of possibility that she slips up again and makes a mistake on the ground against a very dangerous submission grappler? Give me violence. I'm going to pick Iasmin Lucindo to win, but give me violence instead of picking a money line.
Do you think Lucindo can finish Viana, though? I mean, she hits hard, but Viana does seem pretty. That's like, I'm with you on the under, but that's kind of my one concern is, do you think she could get her out of there?
I think she could. I think the ref could pull her off. You know what I mean? If she drops her 2-3 times and then just punches a couple times with Poly Viana looking for something off of her back, like, I think the ref might step in and stop it. I think that's totally possible.
Yeah, I like it. And on top of that, I don't think Lucindo should go to the mat with Viana, but Lucindo, like, outside the UFC, when she has gotten on top, like, her ground and pound is vicious. And I wish she would have went to the wrestling against Brogan Walker, because she did end up going to the wrestling like late in the rounds. And I think it was like the second round, she got a takedown, she got on top, she got into mount right away. Like, Lucindo's ground game is very good on top. She does have a couple submission losses, which is something to absolutely be aware of here. But those submission losses came when she was 17 years old. So, those were like 4 years ago at this point. I'm hoping she shored up that part of her game. If she did, it's a winnable fight here for her. The thing with Viana, like, it's hard to pick a fighter like Viana. And it's weird. Viana is something that you'll never really see. A strawweight with a 100% finish rate. She is a minute loser. She is content to lose minutes on the feet, like she did against like Hannah Cyphers, and she's content to lose minutes on her back. You can't win decisions pulling guard and laying on your back for 15 minutes. So she's never going to win a decision in the UFC. She's not going to win a decision here. If Viana wins this fight, it's going to be an armbar from guard more than likely. So yeah, I think violence, plus money is probably a solid way to attack it. I gotta pick Lucindo here just because she's going to be winning minutes, whether she's on the feet. She's going to be the much better striker. And on top of that, if Viana does pull guard, Lucindo's going to be winning minutes, just being on top, landing ground and pound, stuff like that. So the pick has to be Lucindo, but I don't know. Laying minus 185 against Viana is kind of terrifying just because, I had a bet on Tabitha Ricci against Viana, and although Ricci was clearly winning that fight, every time the fight hit the mat, I was like, terrified. Like I couldn't even watch the fight because I was terrified of the guard. Like Viana's ground game is no joke. Like she submitted what's her face, Mallory Martin, who's a brown belt, very good grappler in her own right. She made it look easy. Made it look easy. So if Lucinda goes to the ground with Viana, things are going to get very, very sweaty, and there might be some tough moments. And Lucinda is only 21 years old, maybe a little bit green. I mean, Viana is probably going to have some opportunities here. So I got to pick Lucindo, but I can't lay this chalk on her. I'm probably going to pass, or like you said, I think violence. The under 2.5 was actually plus 185 for a while. It's now plus 150. The fight doesn't go plus 125 plus money. I think that's probably the best way to attack it. But yeah, no bet for me as of now.
All right. I am right there with you. No bet for me at this point. Definitely looking under. I need to wait and see when the U.S. markets come out, what I'm going to get there. If it's a slightly chalky 2.5, I'll probably lay it. But if it's a 1.5, I got a tough decision to make. So let's see what happens. And yeah, Dixon Zider, our guy, saying Polyana's this week's Ariane Lipski. And I could see it, man. I really could see it because with that submission offense, if she finds her way to the ground against this girl ever at all, I mean, I think that this week's Stolyarenko is maybe a better description of the way that she wins this fight. Because like Brady said, I don't see her winning a decision. I don't see her necessarily hurting and knocking out this particular girl on the feet. Maybe it's possible. Maybe I'm selling her short, but I don't see it. I would think it's going to be a sub or bust personally. All right, everybody. Next fight up. We're talking about Khalil Rountree, and he's taking on Chris Daukaus. Is that really the co-main event in this spot? Did I miss a fight? I did. All right. I'm glad I checked because I didn't have the next one queued up for us and ready to go. All right. Brady having some camera troubles. He will be right back in just a second, everybody. So I will go ahead and start this breakdown off. Mushroom in the chat already starting us off with Khalil Rountree KO. Now, the big storyline in this fight is Chris Daukaus dropping from heavyweight down to 205, right? Daukaus is on an 0-3 skid, and he's switching from heavyweight to 205. He was a very fast heavyweight. Speed was his greatest edge up against those big boys, and he's pulling a Tanner Boser and dropping down a weight class. Now, for me personally, I think that's a good thing. I mean, Daukaus, I have always said, is a smaller man masquerading up at heavyweight. He never had the frame for heavyweight. He was too big, too small, and he had all that extra size on him. He had all that extra flab, all that extra weight, not muscle. He does not have the frame of a 265-pound fighter in the UFC, but he does have a UFC caliber skill set. His boxing is fantastic. I mean, his accuracy with his punches is crazy, and he's fast, man. This guy, Daukaus, has speed for days. But you can't get countered by heavyweights. If you're not a heavyweight, if you don't have that frame and you're up there punching with, mind you, not just heavyweights, but some of the biggest power punchers we've ever seen, Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Derek Lewis, that's not going to end well for you, man. So I see a lot of people go into the he's chinny narrative. And while I agree with you, he's got a suspect chin. The Daukaus brothers as a duo are maybe not the most durable fighters we've ever seen in the UFC. And if you're even slightly questionable with your durability and you're punching with guys like Lewis and Rozenstruik, you're dead. You're just a dead man walking. The Derek Lewis spot, folks, that was the first y'all must have forgot Derek Lewis bet that I made. Nobody seems to remember that Daukaus opened up as a dog against Derek Lewis, and you gamblers out there flipped that line. You guys had me getting plus money on my guy Derek Lewis against the chin of Chris Daukaus. I couldn't believe that happened. I was on vacation with my family and watching live updates on my phone because I didn't have internet to stream it, and then freaked out in the middle of a park Everyone looking at me like I'm a wackadoo because I cashed a massive bet on Derek Lewis by round 1 knockout in that spot. But I think Daukaus is more fit for 205. I think he's always been more fit for 205. He's a BJJ black belt. We talked about the boxing. He's going to be 2 inches taller in this spot, and he's taking on Khalil Rountree. And Khalil comes down to 2 things here for me. Good Khalil or bad Khalil? Those are the 2 things you got to ask yourself. Which one are you getting, Brady? Because if he shows up sharp, focused, ready to go, he's a murderer. He comes out and hurts people in the first round. He looks like he enjoys doing it too. But if you get the Rountree that's, he's a little more nail than he is hammer. He had a rough day. He had a rough weight cut. Somebody said something mean to him. He just doesn't have that same killer instinct. So I have a hard time with this one. I have a hard time with part of it. Let me correct myself. I have a hard time getting to Khalil Rountree being this big of a favorite over a guy like Chris Daukaus. He's another 2-1 favorite that I just can't get behind. I already bet plus 175 on Daukaus, folks. This thing should be way closer to even money. Everybody and their mother is just piling in Brady on Rountree by KO. Rountree, round 1. You know what happened the last time that happened, Brady?
Yes.
Rountree lost a decision to Marcin Prachnio. So let's take the chinniest fighter in the 205-pound division and let everybody bet on round 1 knockout on Khalil Rountree. And what happens? He drops the damn ball. This guy is not the round 1 murderer that all of you seem to think he is. And this 3-fight win streak, Brady, let me just poke holes in every single one of them. Modestas Bukauskas, he hits that sexy side kick to the knee. Modestas is barely UFC caliber to begin with. I like the guy. I've made money betting on him in certain spots. He's nothing to write home about. And that side kick destroyed this man's leg. Who knows how that fight goes if it continues, but that's kind of a fluky situation, a freak accident, not a real TKO. Carl Roberson, he's since been let go from the UFC. He's a bad striker who was a primary grappler and got knocked out by Khalil Rountree because he offered nothing and Khalil felt no fear and bullied this man into a corner. I'm not overly impressed with that finish either. And then he was gifted, Brady, just absolutely gifted a disgusting split decision over Dustin Jacoby, which to this day I don't understand. Jacoby outlanded him by 50 significant strikes? 50? Like, it wasn't even close. Jacoby should have won a unanimous decision. I don't know how Rountree got that split. And before that, the aforementioned fumbling of the Marcin Prachnio fight. If you can't knock out Marcin Prachnio, I can't trust your power. And he got nuked by Ion Cutelaba before that. He's taking on a heavyweight this week, Brady. A heavyweight that's going to have a speed advantage on him. A heavyweight that's going to have a grappling advantage on him. And oh yeah, let's not forget, Rountree can't defend takedowns to save his life. And on top of that, he doesn't know what to do when he's on the ground. We haven't seen Chris Daukaus really shoot for takedowns at heavyweight. I pray, Brady, I pray he comes out with his singlet on in this spot because he's a BJJ black belt. And if he can get Khalil Rountree down just once, that's going to lighten the power. That's going to lessen the ego. And that's going to put some doubt in Rountree's mind. I think this fight's all Daukaus. I really do. And it looks like some money finally is getting smart and coming in here on the Daukaus side of things. Folks, I know he might be a little scary when it comes to the durability. It's almost the same thing as the JP Buys situation. We try not to bet on fighters who have bad chins, but treating Rountree like a lock at minus 225 is also insanity. I'm betting my guy Chris Daukaus and hoping for the best. Brady, what are you doing here?
Yeah, well, you're gonna be able to hold up your CLV trophy, man, because this line is getting absolutely crushed. It looks like Daukaus is plus 150 now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, plus 150. Bet online. Rountree minus 175. So it looks like people are on the same line of thinking.
Finally starting to wake up.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Rountree fights are so hard to call because you nailed it right off the bat. Who's gonna show up? Good Rountree, Thailand, Bangkok Rountree, pissed off Rountree, or the Rountree that gets 30-27 by Marcin Prachnio. I mean, which one's going to show up here? I'm not sure. It's hard to predict, man. I remember, actually, this was probably my worst bet ever. I had a bet on Carl Roberson against Khalil Rountree. I thought, hey, Carl Roberson's finally getting somebody that won't take him down. And I knew my bet was trash as soon as they did the intros and they put the camera right in Rountree's face and he did that look just like staring down the camera like this. I knew for a fact that pissed off Rountree showed up that night. And boy, did he ever. I went back and watched that fight, man. And one of the announcers said it. They were like, it looked like Carl Roberson took, Khalil Rountree's money or something. Like he was pissed off. One of the most brutal finishes I've ever seen. I mean, if that Rountree shows up, he probably does finish Daukaus. But if the Rountree that showed up against Pragnio shows up, Daukaus styles on this guy. And like you said, if Daukaus wrestles for the first time ever, and it turns out he can wrestle, he can get the fight down to the mat, Daukaus is a BJJ black belt, and Rountree's ground game has looked awful every time he's been taken down. So for me, Clint, I'm staying far, far, far away from this fight. It probably is a dog or pass just because laying chalk on Khalil Rountree, a guy that is 50-50 on whether he does show up or whether he doesn't show up, is not something I want to do. But I'm going to pass on this fight. I will pick Khalil Rountree to starch Chris Daukaus, but you won't see me laying minus 200 on him. And I wish you luck on your bet.
Okay. I appreciate it. I totally get it. This is another one where I expect to be on a very, very small island with just maybe 2 or 3 hammocks, people sipping Mai Tais sitting next to me on the beach on the insane Daukaus side of things. But man, let me tell you guys, if everyone and their mother, every single person on Twitter is hammering Khalil Rountree, it's Rountree KO, it's Rountree round 1, the world is on this man. And that number starts steaming the other way.
Yes, yeah.
Red flag. Be real careful if you're a Rountree believer out there. The public is not always wrong, folks. The public is not always wrong. But that kind of reverse line movement, the bookies see everybody is piling on Rountree and they go, you know what? We'll give you a better number. We'll make it easier for you. Come on, put it down with us. You should just be a little bit cautious. Make sure you are sure before you lock that bet in. I've got that CLV trophy. Hopefully it works out for me so far this year. It has been. Hopefully I keep that good vibe rolling into Saturday. Co-main event, everybody. Here we go. Next fight up for the co-main event. Cub Swanson returns, taking on mean Hakeem Dawodu. And you guys know what I say about these aging fighters. Cub Swanson returning to his home here this week had a very misled decision to drop a weight class at 39 years old and try to move down to 135. Didn't go well for him. J-Mart had a day against this man. Knocked him out twice, in fact, Brady. He almost had him out of there in that first round, and if he had maybe 10 more seconds, it would have been over. Took him into the second and finished him there instead. When late-stage career fighters start hopping weight classes, folks, be careful. Be careful. It's a sign of the end times. They're trying to find that advantage that they're missing these days that they had just 2-3 years ago. It's gone. It's not there. They're hunting for it. They're looking for it. Maybe if I'm bigger, maybe if I'm a bully, that'll be what gets it done. Probably not. Probably not. And that's kind of what we've got going on in this spot. He's coming back up to his proper weight class, which is something that I will say. I like Cub Swanson in his normal home, but he's older. He's taken a lot of damage recently. He's been finished pretty regularly, and it's not like the UFC is doing him any favors here. He's taken on Hakeem Dawodu. Now, Hakeem is a guy that I can't seem to get right, Brady. I'm having a real tough time with him. He's the king of the split decision, and quite frankly, simply right off the bat, because of that, I don't think Hakeem should ever be a big favorite in the UFC because he's kind of proven that he's really topped out here. Like, he comes forward, he tries to hurt people. He hurts his opponent in almost every fight, and he throws caution to the winds, trying to disrespectfully punch these people in the face and body. And he just never finishes anybody. He just is incapable of finishing anybody UFC caliber. Zubaira Tuhugov, Julio Arce, Kyle Bochniak. Like, the one finish he's got is over Yoshinori Hori, and that guy is long since retired. I'm sorry, he's fighting over in Risen these days, I guess, but he just got finished over there too. Not a guy that can finish at the UFC level. So the UFC is throwing a busted Cub Swanson in there against maybe some upside Hakeem Dawodu. And unless he finishes Cub, which Cub could be broken at this point in his career, he really could be. But I think Prime Cub runs circles around Hakeem Dawodu. So split decision Like, I don't want to lay this price tag on Hakeem Dawodu, Brady. I'm going to pick Hakeem to win, but minus 250, I ain't having it. That's for the birds. Plus 190 on Cub Swanson. I'm not trusting a 39-year-old who's hopping weight classes and is getting knocked out every other fight. Can't do it. I think these guys make a competitive fight. I think they stay in there. Cub Swanson maybe takes a bit of a risk-adverse spot here, tries not to get hurt nearly as much, and Hakeem can't hurt anybody anyway. So I think we see a competitive 15-minute fight for the co-main event. What do you like here?
Yeah, I don't know. I think this might, and this is not confirmed or nothing like that, but I think it might be Swanson's retirement fight.
Wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I kind of think so because, man, he looked horrible in the Martinez fight. And Martinez is a very good fighter, don't get me wrong, but he just looked bad in that fight. Like, he was getting hurt with everything that landed. Like, I remember watching that Martinez fight, and Martinez hurt him not only to the head, but to the body, to the legs. I mean, he got hurt several times in that fight. You know, there was knees in the clinch, elbows in the clinch. Cub Swanson, I think his durability is starting to go at this point. We saw Giga, knock him out in a minute, with a kick to the body as well. So I think he's really fragile to the body, to the legs at this point. And Dawodu, for what it's worth, he does mix it up really well to the body, to the legs. So I think that's going to come into play here. But yeah, it's weird with Hakeem. I mean, this is a guy in Hakeem who kind of looks like a killer. He throws very hard. He throws with bad intentions. But you're right, he's not finishing anybody. Does he finish Cub Swanson at this point? I think it's very much in play, but it's hard to kind of count on that. I'm kind of more so of the opinion of Cub Swanson is towards the end of his career, and like I said, this might be the last one. But laying minus 200 on Dawodu, not something I really want to do. I might actually take a shot on Dawodu inside the distance. Actually, I think that if he is going to get a finish in the UFC at this point, it might be over a guy in Cub Swanson who I think the durability is about done at this point. And like I said, I think it's not confirmed or nothing, but I think this might be the last time we do see Cub Swanson at this point. So give me Dawodu. I think a late finish. I think he mixed it up to the body, to the legs, and hurts Cub Swanson, and the ref steps in at some point. So give me Dawodu late finish and Dawodu by knock. If it's something crazy, I might take a shot, but other than that, nothing really sticking out for this one.
I wouldn't blame anybody for going that route, Brady. And I see a couple people in the chat looking for that round 3 sprinkle. I don't mind it. Because, Cub could be ready to hang it up. He could break in this spot. Absolutely. Keep your ears peeled, because if in the interviews he says this is it, if he says the R word, if that's in his brain, then we're steaming ship on Hakeem Dawodu, because we're fading these fighters who are hanging it up after their next fight. Abso-freaking-lutely. And I see some of you in the chat here calling me out on my bullshit. Let me tell you why this spot is different and the logic does not match with the Daukaus position. So you've got a guy in Cub Swanson who fights his entire career at 145, and then at 39 years old drops to 135. He fights at 145 his whole career, and then right at the very end, he tries to find new life down a weight class. That is not the same as a guy in Chris Daukaus who is 33 years old, still technically in his prime, who was always a 205-pound frame, who is now realizing that he should have been down a weight class all along and is finally making the move after losing a crap ton of weight. If you guys look at Chris Daukaus's old photos, he's unrecognizable. Like, the guy comes out looking like Parker Porter. He's got so much weight on him. Now he's down where his frame really should have been if he didn't have that weight on him. And I'll bet you he would have been if he was in better shape when he started. He happened to be a fat guy when he got started in MMA. So very, very different when it comes to this particular weight switch. When you're going home, I think it's okay. When you're trying to find new life, that's a different story. Here we go, folks. Main event. Main event. This is Vicente Luque taking on Rafael dos Anjos. That's a good fight, Brady. It's a real good fight. Vicente Luque is number 1 on my do not fade list. I have lost so much money betting against Vicente Luque over the past couple of years. I just didn't recognize what this guy was capable of. And then, of course, I missed the boat when there was finally a chance to go ahead and bet against him. He dropped his last fight in brutal fashion against Jeff Neal. And that was a real tough L for me to take, man. I actually bet against him with Bilal Muhammad. So I did catch that fade, but I was coming back on the comeback against Jeff Neal. Didn't believe. Just didn't believe. Tough night at the office. And then we got to talk about what everybody wants to mention here, the brain bleed. right? They talked about the brain hemorrhage that he suffered in that fight against Neil. How could he possibly be competing? What is he doing back here? There's no way you can bet him here in this spot. So this is a full year after that happened. And he's gone through rigorous testing, multiple doctors. They've done everything, and they have cleared him on several occasions. I believe he is cleared to fight. I'm pretty sure that he's good to go. You know, obviously, brain stuff, you don't want to fuck around with that. You have no idea what causes it. You don't know if it can come back. It's definitely a risk for the guy. I pray he is safe. But if he's anything like the Vicente Luque we've seen in the past, he's a damn good fighter, Brady. I mean, the best thing he's got going for him is that jab. His jab is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And he's got heavy hands. He can hurt anybody with any punch he throws. Nice deep kick, stabs to the body of his opponents, hurts them to the gut, likes to work on that body, chips away with the low inside kicks. And then he's just always touching you with that jab. It's always in your face, always busting your nose up. He's got a nasty offensive submission game. He's got a good sneaky Darce choke on him. And then his get-up game is where it's at. He's got 61% takedown defense. So he's not the easiest guy in the world to take down in the first place. But he's also extremely hard to keep down. You know, his fight against Bilal, he gave up 5 takedowns, but only 7 minutes of control. The deeper that fight went, the tougher it was for Bilal to keep him down. I mean, he landed, I think, those last 3 takedowns and didn't get more than 15 seconds worth of control. Vicente Luque popped right back up. He got better the deeper that fight went, which is usually the trademark of Bilal. Lost that decision. Good, close, tough, competitive fight. I think Bilal, rightfully got the nod in that spot. I'm a Bilal guy, though. You know me. I like Vicente Luque. And in fact, I think this is the spot where he pulls a Derek Lewis and reminds everybody who the fuck he is, Brady. He's been gone for a year. And I listened to an interview with him where he talked about how he's actually been limiting himself. He's kind of been stifling his own potential because he's a tough guy and he wants to go out there and bang and he wants to put on good fights. And because of that, he's never really worked on the defensive side of his game. He's never bothered. He hasn't been listening to his coaches because he just wants to go out there and trust his offense and slug it out. And that's something he's been working on, especially since that Neil fight, which shockingly, right? I know the guy gets knocked out and brutalized and he decides finally he needs to move his head. I think we're going to see an improved version of Vicente Luque, defensively speaking, coming into this fight here. And what he's getting, I don't want to call Rafael dos Anjos a break-in competition. Like, I'm an RDA guy, folks. Like, if you make me put my hand on a stack of Bibles and you ask me who the best lightweight of all time is, my answer is Rafael dos Anjos. Like, if this man didn't get forced up to 170 because of his weight cut issues when he was in his prime, I am so sad we missed out on RDA versus McGregor, because I promise you guys he would have popped that little guy's head off. Like, RDA was an absolute monster at 155 pounds, and his reign got cut short by health problems. And instead, he fought the absolute best that 170 pounds has to offer, and it was only the biggest grapplers at 170 that caused him any kinds of problems. He fought Kamaru Usman. He fought Colby Covington. He tapped out Jeff Neal. Like, Michael Chiesa was able to go ahead and out grapple him, but that's kind of my point. It's these big, strong, physical guys that can grapple that cause problems. RDA might get takedowns early, Brady, but he is a smaller, stockier, shorter, stumpier version of Bilal Muhammad. This guy is going to get takedowns early, potentially. And then as the fight wears on, he's not going to be able to keep Luque down. And Luque is the better striker. He's going to have a large reach advantage. He's going to have a big size advantage. And Rafael dos Anjos, as much as I love the guy, is getting up there. He is also 38 years old. And he got blasted in round 5 by Rafael Fiziev. And I know Fiziev may be a cleaner striker. He may be a crisper striker than Vicente Luque is. But I'm not so sure he hits harder. Vicente Luque is a whole weight class bigger. I think this is a clean Vicente Luque spot. And as long as that brain bleed situation doesn't rear its ugly head, as long as he is not like a broken shell of himself, I think he runs away with this fight. Dos Anjos right now is a minus 135 favorite. You can get plus 110 on Vicente Luque out there. I've already got 3 units on Vicente Luque at plus 115. So slight edge to me on the CLV at this point. We'll see what happens throughout the week if that line goes one way or the other. But as long as I got plus money, I think Vicente Luque is the side, Brady. What about you?
You said plus 115?
Plus 115.
That's a good line, dude. My goodness.
Like it.
Yeah, because I see plus 100. You said how many units you have on it?
3.
3. Okay. Yeah, I mean, narrative aside, because there's a bunch of narratives on the Luque side, but there's also a bunch of narratives on the RDA side. I'll touch on those. But narrative aside, I agree with you. I think it's a clear dogger pass situation, and it's funny. We'll hear that a lot this week, unless the line flips. But this is going to be the first time that Luque has ever closed as an underdog in the UFC, which is wild. This guy's been fighting forever. So maybe the line does close in his favor. I see plus 105 right now, but yeah, but there's narrative things on both sides. You touch on the Luque thing. This is a guy in Luque who's just, taken so much damage throughout his career. He's one of those guys where I thought, Luque is never getting knocked out. Some of these guys, I can't imagine, like Max Holloway, Marlon Vera, Rob Font. I can't imagine any of these guys getting knocked out. Luque was one of those guys. I was like, nobody's ever knocking out Luque. I mean, that's not possible. Are you allowed to bring a baseball bat into the cage? No, you're not. So he's not getting knocked out. But he got knocked out by Jeff Neal. The time finally came. He got knocked out, brutally knocked out. He got knocked out so bad that even Keith Peterson had to stop the fight. I mean, it was bad. He went face down. It was tough to watch. And then, reports come out that, he had a brain hemorrhage. And so that all scares me. If Vicente Luque comes back and he's the Vicente Luque of old, I think this is a very winnable spot for him. What I don't like about RDA is a couple things. This is RDA who is, a guy that fought a lot of his career at 155. He is so small for 170. This is a guy that's 5'9" at 170. There are flyweights, bantamweights, lightweights that are towering over this guy RDA, 5'9" at welterweight. And you take a look at it, like when he's having a lot of success, it is against, these lightweights, these smaller guys. But when it comes up to 170, he's not going out there and having a lot of success against these bigger guys. Luque is going to be a bigger guy. We saw Muhammad go out there, take Luque down and control him a little bit, but Bilal Muhammad's 5'11". RDA is only 5'9". So I think there's things not to like on both sides. The age, the fact that RDA is going to be smaller in this matchup on the RDA side, and then of course the brain hemorrhage on the Luque side, which is something that just sounds terrible. It sounds scary, but I'm right there with you. If it wasn't for the whole brain hemorrhage thing, I probably would have bet Luque already. And I probably will be betting Luque in some type of capacity, whether it's inside the distance, whether it's just the straight money line. But I think at some point over 25 minutes, Luque will catch RDA in something, whether it's a big shot, whether RDA, I don't think this is the case, but makes a mistake on the mat. Like you said, Luque has that very good darce. But yeah, I think at this point, 25 minutes is such a long time in the cage with a killer in Vicente Luque. And if we get the same version of Luque, he's able to stuff these takedowns. If he gets taken down, he's able to pop right back up. And when this fight's at range, if he lands a big shot, I mean, he can put, most guys in the division down. So yeah, I agree with you. I probably will be betting on Luque in some type of capacity this week, whether it's a money line inside the distance, I'm not sure, but I do lean towards the Luque side. And if we get the same good old version of Luque, I think it's a very winnable matchup for him.
All right. I'm glad you're agreeing with me, man. I'm glad we're on the same side there for sure. And, I was looking at how Luque maybe wins this fight. He mentioned how he's being more defensively responsible. He's going to be coming out, I think, probably not so much guns blazing, maybe a little bit slower. We know Dos Anjos is going to want to push the grappling. What we've seen recently is kind of the reintroduction to that ninja choke. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Luque submits Rafael Dos Anjos. He's kind of the king of the club and sub already. He hurts people before he locks up that darce. And Dos Anjos has been taking some damage recently, and he's definitely selling out for those takedowns. If he gets in a bad spot, the ninja choke, the darce choke, those are both definitely going to be there. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's maybe the way Luque gets it done, but probably later, right? Dos Anjos is not a guy who's going to get steamrolled. He's not a guy who's going to get smoked. And especially coming off, we talked about the brain hemorrhage more than enough already, but coming off that kind of a situation, you'd think Luque is probably going to take his good sweet time coming out after that. And with that being the case, I fully expect him to be able to find an opportunity. So whether it's a decision, maybe it's a 4-5 late finish for Luque, I think he eventually probably gets it done. And poor Rafael Dos Anjos realizes one more time he's not built for 170 pounds.
Yeah. 3, 4, 5 sprinkles on Luque might be juicy, man. Especially when I add the sub in there, the 3, 4, 5 sub. Ooh, I mean, you're gonna get wild prices on those. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm with you. I'll probably be betting Luque as well.
My tinfoil hat is on, Brady. For this week, it is absolutely on. I am locked in for this week, looking for opportunities for submissions because we've been seeing a lot of submissions. In fact, I had somebody on Twitter reach out, and I was talking to Aaron Bronstetter. We looked at the numbers of what the submissions look like for this year.
Yeah.
There have already been as many submissions in 2023 as all of 2022.
Wow.
It's just, for whatever reason, people are finding their subs more this year. Now, obviously, matchmaking has a lot to do with that. Things, it's very, very much a variance situation. But the fact that subs are landing so much this year kind of leads me to wonder, like, is this 2023's calf kick? Like, is this the new thing that people are just finding these windows for submission offense and we haven't corrected and found the defenses to them yet? And I think maybe we abuse that. We look for these subs a little bit more often for the rest of the year until that number kind of balances itself out and we miss some opportunities. Because I wasn't thinking Carlston Harris sub last week, I'll tell you that much. So there's going to be some spots that come through. And I think this card has several of them, Brady. We already talked about it, man. I think McKinney sub is going to be very live. Boudet sub might be in play if he goes to the grappling. JP buys sub, I am absolutely betting. It's not even a question. It's happening. Jamie Pickett sub could potentially be something that happens this week. Like, I think some of these numbers are going to be off the charts. Amorim sub obviously is going to be there, and Polyana sub is definitely something that's in play as well. So lots of opportunities this week, folks. That sub special ticket is going to be crazy this week. Brady, my guy, thank you so much for spending 2 hours with me breaking down UFC Vegas 78. Let the people know where they can support you, where they can find you. Shout your stuff out, man.
Yep, Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers, YouTube, DFS by the numbers. I did post a DWCS breakdown earlier today, as well as my breakdown for Vegas 78. And you can catch me here on Pub Sports Radio. And lastly, I do want to shout out Uncle Weezy. We are all here for you. MMA communities behind you, and Bootsy will absolutely be missed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're all here for you, my guy. Definitely remember that. All right, everybody, that is the show. Thank you all so much for spending your Monday evening with us one more time. Of course, as always, shows later on in the week, the Total Takedown, the Undefeated Post-Weigh-In Show. We go live every single Saturday right here on Pub Sports Radio for a live bet companion show. And hey, guys, click the link in the description below. Please go check out Bet Openly for me. Makes a huge difference for your boy. That's an easy way that you can support me. And like I mentioned, long-term, you're going to want to be there. Better numbers for gamblers. Long-term, sign up. Give it a shot. Take it for a spin. Just see how you like it. And on that note, I think I want to get you all out of here. Folks, if nothing else, Bootsy reminds us that tomorrow is never promised. You know, we've all got people that we love. We've all got people we care about. Maybe some relationships that could use a little bit of fixing. Or, you know, even if you just haven't talked to that buddy of yours that you hang out with once a month, just reach out. Just say what's up. Make sure you are in contact with the people that you love. Put that positive energy out there. I promise you'll get it back. You'll get it back from the right people. Don't waste your time on those people who are not returning that positive energy and love, but be there, be supportive to the people that do. And I promise you, your circle is going to get stronger. Your life will be better and more fulfilled. Just don't take anything for granted. Get out there, kick some ass, make the best of yourself and everybody around you every damn day. Have a great week, everybody. Let's roll.